Black bollock.
That's there was context to that.
Good evening, everyone. How are we doing? Wow, what an intro to this video. Yeah, The Lord of the Rings, the motion picture trilogy. I mean, this is huge. I mean, I don't think I've done a review on this channel of these films. It's just always been assumed that I love these films, which I do. They're my favorite films of all time. Nothing will ever come close. Nothing will ever compare. However, this isn't Chris reviews. This is Dale reviews, and this is Dale right here in case you're clicking on this video for the first time. It was my absolute pleasure to show you the Lord of the Rings films for the first time. And we pretty much just hot off the press after watching Return of the King extended edition, all 4 and a bit hours of it. So I'm just gonna like mostly be quiet for this for the first time in forever. And Dale, the Lord, you did it. We did it. We got through it.
It took me 30 years, and I got there. It took me 30. Well, technically, it didn't take me 30 years because I wouldn't have had the possible, like, I wouldn't have had the chance to do it in the first 7 years. 7 years of my life.
There we go.
So it took me 23 years, but I did it. Still did it. Yeah, it's great.
We did it. So we paced this out quite a bit. I wasn't a complete, absolute horrendous friend and said, right, we're going to watch all 3 extended editions in one night. I have done that before, and it is not a fun experience, despite them being my favorite films of all time. So we sort of paced it out, went through the Blu-rays of these. And when did we watch Fellowship?
I still think we should have done it. I still think we should have done it. We watched Fellowship the night before Ozzy.
Oh, we did. That's right. Yeah.
We watched it, and then we were like, right, we're gonna have like 3 hours sleep or whatever it was. I think I got like 3 hours sleep. I don't sleep that well.
Yeah, I don't know how we
but
made it
like
do that.
I think I got 2 hours sleep. I think I woke up in the night. I think I fell asleep for another hour, and then that was
And then I think we did 2 Towers the following week, I want to say.
Yeah.
That was pretty quick. And then we've had a couple of weeks. I'm not sure. We had a couple of weeks until Return of the King, though, tonight, didn't we? And I kind of wanted that. I wanted these films I wanted them to simmer a little bit. I didn't want you to just think, because, I mean, when I watch these films, I had to wait a year for these films each time. And let me tell you, like, the end of 2 Towers with that cliffhanger of Gollum saying, like...
Why I don't watch TV shows. I can't be asked people having to wait a year.
Yeah.
And then I go back and have to watch them again because I like watching things together. And this is like I watch them in order, because what I do as well, I'm very big on, I don't like starting a new series in between. So if I'm for instance, if I was playing a series of games, it would be like, well, I'm through a series. I'm not starting while watching the movie series. It'd be like, I don't like doing that. And again, I was the same with this. I was very, it's very sort of, I don't start things. I was very careful of if I was reading a book during, because obviously it was once a week. So I had time to obviously go through, do other things. But one, I didn't want to start a series of books. And any book I was reading, I always said to myself, like, because we were getting to, let's say it was 2 Towers on the Saturday, I was like, right, I will definitely finish it before Friday, because if I don't finish it before Friday, I'm in the middle of a book and I'm also in the middle of it. So I'm very like that, and I like doing it. So it's nice we've got them all together. Yeah, I don't like waiting a year, and I don't like jumbling things up. It's like every time, like before Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, it was right, Kingdom Hearts 1, go, and all the lead up to it, which I'm going to do obviously for the next one. But you know what I mean? So I like doing things like that. So yeah, it'd be nice to see them all in one day. That would be cool.
Well, that's up to you. You can do that. I don't know if I'm up to ever doing that again. I'm not ruling it out, but yeah, I just wanted them to, because I think sometimes with that, or if you've got a TV show, it depends what the story's like. If it's 10 episodes of a Netflix series and it's all one big overarching story, then yeah, there's an argument there where you can just sort of marathon it all and review it as a whole thing. But sometimes, especially...
The thing is, they were all done as one, weren't they? Well, to be fair, it's one story, and I even said this to you when I read it. I'm talking fast. When I read it, it'll be read as one thing. I'm not going to be like, read the first one and then read it. I mean, I'm not going to read it all in one night. I don't feel like that would happen. I mean,
it's possible.
Technically, it's possible. I mean, I could, drink a lot of coffee and stay up, and you know what I mean. But it will be obviously over a course of X amount of time, but it would be as one book. It wouldn't be like, okay, I'll give this a rest, I'll wait a couple of, it would just be, I'll just keep reading them through like as one story. Like this was shot, it was shot as one. It's kind of like, I mean I read the Harry Potter books, but like Deathly Hallows, when they did part 1 and part 2, now if I ever do watch them, I watch them on the same night because it's one thing to me, like do you know what I mean? So I like experiencing stuff as one.
So I'd say going into this, just as like a little bit of a preamble, I think I have mentioned this before on stream. We were going to do a camera like this, and I had my TV set up, and we were going to do a first time watch. You know, you get these like reaction videos, reaction channels, whatnot. And I thought, because genuinely you are watching these films for the first time, I felt like that would be a video that people would love to see. Well, we had all the audio set up. We had like a headphone splitter connected to the TV. Everything was going great until all of a sudden that splitter decided not to work, and the audio was kind of compromised. But also, like 45 minutes to an hour into the movie, we'd maybe said like 2 or 3 sentences over the top of it. We were just sort of sat, fixated on the movie. And I didn't want to keep like interjecting and shouting over the top of it or cracking some dumb joke. Like, I wanted you to just experience this movie.
We said more over this movie because by this point we knew the characters. Well, I mean, by this point I knew the characters. Do you know what I mean? So we experienced them. Whereas the first one, the thing about that is it's that first, oh, so this is here, this is this. And I mean, obviously I read The Hobbit, so I know bits, but it was also very sort of like, okay, this is here, there's this, and getting the humor of the movies, do you know what I mean, the vibe of the whole thing. And then by sort of when you get to midway between Two Towers and Return of the King, it's kind of like I know the thing. So it probably would have been a bit easier to do those two, but it would have been a bit weird around just doing here's just do Return of the King.
Well, as you mentioned, you had read The Hobbit before going into this, so that must have been quite a cool experience, because especially in that first movie, there are a lot of little hints and allusions to The Hobbit. There's the bit where Gandalf says, if you're referring to the incident with the dragon, I was barely involved. And there's bits where Bilbo's recounted his story of the trolls. We see the trolls in the extended edition and in the background of the theatrical cut. There's bits where Thorin gets mentioned. So there's all these little mentions which tie it back into the book that you pretty much more or less just read not long before we started Fellowship, I think, right? So did you feel like that eased you in? I think so.
Something like that. Yeah.
Did you feel like reading The Hobbit helped with easing you into this world, or do you think the film did a good enough job with that?
No, it did, because I was already part of this world, but it wasn't like a whole. I mean, to be fair, if I hadn't read it, I know the world-ish. Like I knew what's where to an extent. But it was a kind of like, it was just like, oh, here's the next chapter. That's what it did feel like, which was really cool. It wasn't like a it was literally like, this is next, this is now Frodo's story rather than Bilbo's story. So it was like it was nice. And those little things, where they spoke about obviously Smaug briefly, all that sort of stuff, it was just nice. It was nice to hear.
I do think Fellowship does a very, very good job of that. And by me describing the movie, I'm also kind of describing the book here as well, in that it starts off with Bilbo. And it's like this nice, it's sequel to The Hobbit, it's a continuation, but very, very quickly, not long into the film at all, it's the passing of the torch almost. Like Bilbo's out of the story, he goes off to go to Rivendell, and then we follow Frodo, and it's pretty much Frodo's quest. What did you feel to that shift in protagonist there from Bilbo to Frodo? Did you like Frodo as a character? Were you just sort of...
to be fair, it didn't feel like there was much of a shift. And I like that, because it was one of those things where it felt, when I say it doesn't feel like there's much of a shift, it was kind of like, so think Star Wars. It doesn't feel like, okay, we've shifted to a completely different character, if that makes sense. It feels like a whole, but it's a different story in this world. It feels like it was a natural thing, because it's not like, it's a natural thing. It's a new story. It's this, but it feels like that's where it's meant to go, rather than a whole like, I like the other character. Do you know what I mean? It didn't feel like that. It felt really natural. And to be fair, Frodo did not really even feel like the main character of the movies to me, realistically, with the kind of stuff that was going on.
Who would you say did, if you had to say who felt like the main character?
It's really weird to say, but I feel like the world itself felt like the main character.
Okay.
The aspect of the whole thing, and just the way it was. I think Frodo carrying the ring was just a necessity of, we need someone to carry the fucking ring. You know what I mean? It was the rest just felt like that was, there's this world, we're exploring it. There's someone carrying the ring. There's someone doing this. Ultimately, he needs to get from A to B. Basically, it's just the story of a postman. Like, do you know what I mean? It's literally just the guy. He needs to get from A to B.
Death Stranding.
Yeah, exactly. I still need to play that, but no, it's exactly. That's basically what it is, and that's essentially what it is. So it's the story of the ring, rather than feeling exactly like, just like it's Frodo. And I think, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing about his character. I wouldn't say it's negative at all. I know you mentioned to me before, Frodo was, is a little bit different in the movie and the book,
Yeah.
which I'll experience at some point because I will read the book I'm still in two minds whether to start it like soon. I've literally.
That's up to you.
I'm at a period now. I've just finished another book, and when I say just finished, I mean literally 10 minutes before I left to come here. I just finished another book, and I was like, right, cool, because my brain was just like, right, I'm starting. I was like, I need to finish this. This has to be finished before I start this movie. So I'm technically able to do that, but I'm in two minds because I
mean, you've just finished this film. It's like, do you give it a bit of a break?
Well, this is the thing. In a not an ideal world, what's it? Logically, you'd think give it a break, do whatever. But I know how my brain works, and I'm kind of like, I'll be there, and I can go online. I'll be looking at shit about Lord of the Rings. I'll be sat there fucking hours going, oh yeah, but there's it. Oh yeah, but there's it. And I'll be watching clips that I've just watched. The amount of times I've watched clips on YouTube or something where there's a little voice in my head going, you've watched this about 10 times in the past month. Why are we doing this? And then I think about it, and I'm like, if I took away all those times I rewatch this stuff, I'd have another day.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? So, but I know how my brain works, and I can do that, and that's fine. And there's something relaxing, enjoyable about going into this thing that you really know and love, and also I want to experience more about it. But I do think giving it time would be better, because it'll be going back into that. Going, oh, do you know what? This is really cool, and I know I'm going to love going back into it. Yeah, so I'm probably going to do it like that. But I also wouldn't put it past me to, like, you know, in a day be like, oh, guess what I've started? You're like, okay, cool. But if I did do it that way, I would probably do the Silmarillion first because I've just experienced this story. So it'd be Lord of the Rings and Silmarillion technically. But I'd be going book-wise backwards, if that makes sense. But I'd still be doing it story-wise in the order it was intended. So, but I think I'm going to leave it a bit because then going back into it, it'll be Lord of the Rings first and Silmarillion. So, yeah. But you said Frodo was a bit different in the books. But I feel like it's not a dig at him. I just feel like he's not as like great main character. He's just there. He's little delivery boy. He does his thing, and there's nothing wrong with him. I just feel like there's more. I wouldn't say better things that happen when he's not there because there's really great stuff that happens when he is there. But I think it's all in conjunction with each other. It's like that's great. So is that. I wouldn't say I was there going. Like Return of the Jedi, this is one of my things. I don't dislike Return of the Jedi at all. But one of my things is always I love the whole Darth Vader, Luke thing going on. And when they switch to the Ewoks, I'm like, oh, bring it back. I'm fucking, do you know what I mean? I was enjoying that. And that's how I feel. But I never really felt like Lord of the Rings. It wasn't like, bring it back to that. It was always every single thing was nice.
There was kind of a moment of that. Like I remember seeing Two Towers, and this isn't a dig against the film at all. And I think it was intentionally made to be this way and to get that kind of response out of the viewer during the Battle of Helm's Deep. Witnessing that for the first time, even witnessing it now, it's like one of the most incredible, some would argue the most visually incredible battle scene ever put to film. And you're getting into it and it's action packed and, you know, it just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating. And then we cut to Treebeard saying, we just finished saying good morning.
I like Treebeard.
And it's really no, I do too. Treebeard's my favorite character.
Core design, and this is the thing. I don't think there wasn't really anything that overshadowed the other thing, if that makes sense. Yeah, it was really weird. There wasn't really anything that overshadowed the other thing. I just think, and this is why I would say Two Towers is my least favorite because there's nothing that overshadows another thing. But I feel, you know, there was big spikes in, I was going to say Return of the Jedi, in Return of the King, and it's always a return of something. Something always returns. Nothing ever stays away, does it? But yeah, Return of the King and Fellowship, it was always it's like, boom, this happens, and boom, and it's always duh, duh, duh. Whereas Two Towers, it was always just kind of like, it felt like it was flowing like that. Everything was the same, but it flowed like that. Whereas Fellowship and Return of the King was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it makes it as the middle chapter, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But going back to like the Treebeard and Helm's Deep thing, I remember distinctly there was an audible, like this exasperated sigh during one of the cuts, like this amazing epic shit.
Do you know what was an audible thing? When I watched, it was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, and when Fudge comes on and he like, because he doesn't believe Voldemort's back, and then he comes and goes, oh, he's back. This was an audible thing. When I was at the cinema, everyone just went, fuck me. And I was like, that was so fucking cool. That was great.
I do think it's cool sometimes when you get like those little outbursts in the cinema that stay with you. But yeah,
like I said it too, and I was like, everyone doing it. Great.
But the Treebeard thing, like I think that was on purpose because if you just have like an unbroken action scene where it doesn't let up, gets boring, gets exhausting, and you just get sort of battle and action fatigue. Whereas I think having
Phantom Menace.
It's
No,
similar
but
to
Phantom Menace in the sense of like, because they jam pack a load of like talking. It's like we get it.
Transformers is action fatigue, and probably Battle of the Five Armies as well. When
I
we
think
get to
Phantom
that.
Menace is dialogue fatigue. I think it's a bit like, okay, come on. Do you know what I mean?
But I think those Treebeard scenes were in there strategically because it wanted you to sort of chivvy them along and get them into the action, just how Merry and Pippin are as well.
The thing about this whole universe is, as much as this is darker and grittier than Hobbit, it's still very much a kid's world. It's a very fantasy kind of. It's like Narnia in the sense that if you put them next to each other, this is like a kid's story for adults, and Narnia is like an adult story for kids in a way. Do you know what I mean? They're very similar. Best
friends, Tolkien.
Yeah,
and
this
C.S. Lewis,
but they're very, very similar. Whereas I think Narnia's aimed more at sort of like kids, and especially the way it's written as well. There's even bits where it says, if I explained it, I don't think your parents like me. And it's quite cool as well because you're like, okay, I'm just going to imagine it really fucking brutal. But you know, they talk things like that, but it's also, it could be a very adult story and adult things do happen. Whereas this, it does still happen, but you've still got, realistically, the worlds are very similar vibes. It's just one's told in more of a kid-friendly way and one's told a bit grittier. But then if you put it in, if you replace it with The Hobbit, they're both told in very childlike way. They're very, very similar. So I think, and the thing about Treebeard is, he is kind of the whole, I know the book was obviously written way before we had merchandise, before we were doing, we're going to have a toy of it. But realistically, he's the kind of like, well, he's there for merchandise so we can have the toy, a big tree. Do you know what I mean? He's that kind of, if it was movies first, but it's in a similar vein in terms of books first, because it's that whole kind of mystical tree character that kids will love. Do you get what I mean? It's the same sort of thing. And
Treebeard was actually based on C.S. Lewis himself.
I didn't
like the way he taught. He was kind of, you know, would go off on a tangent about stories. I
fucking hate C.S. Lewis, right? I hate the name because Lewis Carroll and C.S. Lewis both have the Lewis in their name. And
I get mixed up sometimes.
Yeah, it really annoys me. And I remember when I was a kid, I can't remember which one I read first. I've read them both twice because when I was an adult, I went back to them both. But when I was a kid, I read Alice in Wonderland, then Narnia, or what, the other way around. And I remember thinking about it as an adult and like, which one did I read first? I was like, it's the one by... No, they're both Lewis. And I was like, fuck, and it really confused me. I was like, I fucking hate his name. It's so annoying.
Well, you talked about like the world itself, and I think that's one of the greatest strengths. Well, it's a massive strength of Tolkien because, of course, it all came from his mind, but incredibly visualized on film by Peter Jackson and crew. Just New Zealand, the landscape, the world building, right from the off in Fellowship, all the variety of different locations, and through the costumes, through the architecture, the fact that they built like all of this stuff within the film, like insignias on the weapons and everything like that. There's just such a strong sense of world building and cultures within this world. Like you can be in Rivendell and you can just glance and you can look at all the ornate things and you go, oh, well, this is elven design. You go to the mines and you see these columns, you know, hewn out of the stone in very blocky
it's like
square.
You know what's where.
Yeah, and you can just look at their armor. You can look at some armor and go, well, that's elvish armor because of, you know, how ornate it is.
It's
and
mad
everything.
The amount of things that's stuck as well. Like, I mean, obviously you created the language. It's amazing the amount of things that have stuck, like Mithril. Mithrils in Final Fantasy, and that's the
Kingdom Hearts as well.
Yeah. But that's the first place I'd heard of it. Was I played Kingdom Hearts, and then Final Fantasy, and I was like, oh, Mithril. And then I heard about it in Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh, it's something like I was thinking like phoenixes and stuff, but obviously it came from Tolkien. I went, that's interesting. Like, so it's there's a lot of stuff that's really, really stayed and stuck as well. And it's
the word dwarves.
Oh yeah,
as we talked about the other day.
Yeah, you told me that. That was really, really cool. To be fair, how he sort of changed that, which I find really, really cool. I can't remember what I did, but I was thinking of something the other day, and I thought of a word, and I was like, realistically, this makes sense. And then so I asked someone, and they went, "Oh, it's not a word." I was like, "But technically, you know what it means." They're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "It should be a word then." But the point is, it's kind of like that in the sense where it's like, "Yeah, but it should be a V." It's like, because what was it? He was like, because the way it's written, it should be a V, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
but it's like leaves. You say it with a V, don't you?
Yeah. So like,
I always found that I wasn't sure on that because I wrote leaves, and I went, "Is it leaves or the leaves?" I don't know.
Like the plural was dwarfs, DWARFS, and Tolkien was like, "Well, this
little people. This
isn't right visually. This doesn't look right. It should be dwarves." And he argued his case for it. And now, when you're typing, you almost instinctively, whether you've watched, read, or whatever Lord of the Rings, maybe you haven't, you kind of type it that way anyway. It's permeated the very language that we speak.
When you write Motorhead it autocorrects with the little dots on top.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of cool. When you do Motley Crue, don't do it. It acknowledges they're no longer a thing.
I mean, these films are just so immense. It's like, where do we start? Let's start with like the cast. Like, what did you think to all the actors playing the parts? Because to me, this is one of the most perfectly casted movies ever. I can't think of a single actor in this film.
That's what I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think negatives first. I'm trying to think negatives. Let's be fair, because they were all done very, very well. I think everyone that played everyone. I think all the voices. I think everyone came across really well. I think when it came to like Frodo again, let's explain him. I think Elijah Wood got the whole like knew when to act tough in places and knew when to. I don't think it felt like a character that was kind of like, oh, do we know where this one's going or anything like that? Or I mean, the humor was something they really, really got right with this, which I didn't expect at first. Because I mean, obviously before knowing the movies, I was like, okay, it's going to be, fantasy, this, da 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 da. I didn't expect the humor to be where it was. I was like, that's actually really funny. That actually works here. None of it felt forced.
Yeah,
and I think you said it as well. There was a really nice mix of old English ways of speaking, but also it felt very modern in the sense of it was, because one of the things when I was, reading Shakespeare at school, like everyone. I can guarantee every single fucking human that's ever done Shakespeare at school has sat there thinking, why are we doing this? Like, no one speaks like this, right? And obviously, as you grow up, you appreciate it, and they are great stories. But it's one of those things of just like, what? Like, remember when they did the '90s with that blonde dude, Leonardo DiCaprio, that one.
Oh yeah,
the
Baz Luhrmann movie.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet, and they spoke like that, but it was in the '90s. It just felt so. I didn't really get it. But this was so like they had it in the right places where it still felt like that, an old sort of time, but it felt so modern enough that anyone could jump in, which was great.
Yeah, I absolutely. Every time I come back to these films, the way they've adapted the screenplay and they use lines directly from Tolkien's books. They take some of the lines said by a certain character, but give that line to a different character. And Peter Jackson argued that, but it's still Tolkien's words in the film. They've just changed the applicability of it. And then other times there is more sort of conventional movie exposition dialogue, but it is very flowery. It feels very much at home. Like one of the key scenes for me, and I have to keep reminding myself when I'm reading the books, I realized that, oh yeah, this isn't in the books. This was exclusively for the film. But the way it's written, it just feels so at home in Tolkien. And that's Aragorn's battle speech at the Black Gate at the end of Return of the King, where he's... I bid you stand, men of the West, and he G's everyone up for that whole speech is incredible. That's one of the best moments out of all three of the films for me, and the language feels so Tolkienian, even though it's written from whole cloth for the movies. And there's loads of examples of that. Unfortunately, I know we haven't got to them yet, but when we eventually move on to the Hobbit trilogy, that is something that is significantly lacking and feels a lot more sort of generic movie dialogue. It loses a lot of the poetry and the lyricism to it. But speaking about the films being funny, we've got a comment from Carl who says, I always forget how funny the films are in their own way. For example, when Legolas takes down the elephant in that epic scene, which ends with the great line, that still only counts as one. Yeah. And it's nice that you have you have those have those little threads that have payoffs like that. And is that scene completely ridiculous? Yes. Is it?
You say that, but is it like you would act like that? Because you would act like that. You would, if that was me, if I was, shooting a load of ragheads in a war and doing whatever, and like, you would act like that. You would say shit like that and just be like, okay, that counts.
No, I mean the actual scene of him taking down the Oliphant is completely larger than life and ridiculous.
He's an immortal elf.
Well, when you get to the Hobbit, Legolas just does that all the time, and the absurdity of everything he does is just through the roof. But, like that's not technically.
Oh, what like Star Wars 7, 8, and 9, where the Force is now like, and it moves everything, and they all become witches.
Legolas does some that Oliphant scene is tame compared to all the shit that he does in the Hobbit film. And you know how like that scene was like peppered in. It was almost like the climax to that joke of counting your kills. And it's like, well, he's going to take down this huge elephant, but it counts
basically
as one.
Do the whole Force Unleashed, where he's like takes down the Star Destroyer, like that.
Yeah, everything he does is like ridiculous and defying gravity and physics and the laws of nature.
Speaking of which, we're doing a wicked thing, aren't we? See,
we are, yeah. Towards the end of the year, we're going to be doing a Wizard of Oz marathon.
all in one day.
Who would you say then, out of all the characters, is your favorite? I mean, we've got a huge cast.
like
Let's Aragorn. Yeah.
I think from the beginning, he's your first new party member you unlock, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's the first.
He's the mysterious ranger guy. Like, he's sat in the tavern, isn't he? Like, peering under the brim of his hood.
And I think he has the coolest look as well. I mean, he's just. I think everything. He's just great. And I think, from all the way to the end, he sort of kind of felt like the unofficial leader, the one who sort of led people. And when I say unofficial leader, I don't mean because he's constantly just trying to lead. I think if there was someone better leading, it's like, cool, you do your thing. Like, he's not that try hard, blah, blah, blah. But he's the unofficial. He does his thing, and he's just who happens to be the leader because he's good at it. And I think from the beginning of when there's one scene I remember, is it through the swamps in the first one?
Midgewater marshes,
it's like from that just, and it was him that came up with the whole when the ring wraiths go to kill them in the beds, and he kind of got them out of it. And like, just I feel like he's the one that's needed. I feel like I feel like Legolas went there. I feel like we do all right. I feel like
we could handle it with Aragorn.
Yeah, I feel like we could handle it without Gimli, but I don't feel like anyone could handle it without Gimli. I feel like it'd be fine. I don't dislike his character, but I feel like anyone could handle it without him. Do you know what I mean? He can't even see in the Battle of Helm's Deep. Like,
it's true.
You know what I mean? He's got to be like, what's going on? So he's fine. We can leave him to the side.
Aragorn's always been the coolest for me, and again, there is I don't want to spoil too much stuff from the book for you, but again, Aragorn is another one of those characters that is very, very different on page than he is on screen. In screen, they give him a lot more vulnerability. Initially, he doesn't want to become king. He is he's left that path behind a long time ago. He's fearful because his ancestors Isildur became corrupted by the ring, and he fears that he's going to go the same way. The same weakness and the same blood runs in his veins, and he's avoidant of his destiny, of his calling to take up the sword and become king, which is great for a movie protagonist. As a viewer, we like characters that are fallible or that have weaknesses, vulnerability, and that have a growth across a trilogy. Whereas in the book, right from the off, he knows his destiny. He's proud, and he is going to give you a monologue about how awesome he is and how he is the descendant of the line of kings and blah, 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 blah. Very, very different. So one is like this archetypal hero right from the off, and the other one is this sort of like rags to riches kind of character, I guess, in that he is this lowly ranger, and by the course of the trilogy, he becomes king, which is great for, character development across the trilogy. But again, is another example of one of the characters that is very, very different between the two. But Viggo plays it fantastically. Like, Viggo Mortensen's he is the man. And seeing the three hunters, the trio of him, Legolas, and Gimli, that's why for the longest time, Two Towers would always be that film that I went to, because I just loved their storyline. I think they definitely get the strongest storyline within that second film. I feel like Frodo and Sam take very much a back seat in that second one.
They really, really do. They're not. I know they are in it, but it's there's a lot that they do in it. But yeah, they do take the back seat. They feel like the characters that are just sort of doing their own thing, and because obviously they're all together in the Fellowship, then they sort of split off, and throughout Two Towers, they're just away. And then Return the King, they're kind of doing their thing. They did it whilst they're away, kind of thing. But they've always sort of been away. But Two Towers feels definitely like they're just away. They're doing their thing. Whereas like Return the King brings it sort of all back, if that makes sense. Yeah. And you actually see them do cool things.
But Two Towers does give us the introduction of Gollum in
does
full visual in Two Towers, because we get little glimpses of him, little hints of him in Fellowship of the Ring, but we get him in full statement in the second one. What did you think to Gollum as a visual effects character, but also the performance from Andy Serkis as that character?
I think the performance was great. I think it's the whole him talking to himself and in the water and all that, which was mainly he talks to himself in the water in the second one anyway, but I just really noticed it a lot in this one. I think it was quite funny how he did it.
There's that great split personality scene.
Yeah,
it almost feels like there's two characters like side by side.
Yeah, I really like that, the way they do it. I think he comes across really, really well. I think his voice is great. I think he looks great. He does look a bit different to how he did in the Fellowship, though. He looks a bit, because Fellowship, he's a little bit. It's not too different, but I know they've got him as he's kind of a shadowy kind of thing. So I know it's kind of like, a mystery what he looks
well,
like.
they didn't have the design down at that point, so that's why he was.
So
that's why he was very much in the shadows. And I think even over the course of just the few years that these films were all coming out, the visual effects were just improving more and more. Like, you can see such a visual difference from Fellowship of the Ring by the time you get to Return of the King, and Gollum looks fantastic in Two Towers, but even that 1 year's difference between Two Towers and Return of the King, you can see there's a lot more detail on the face and the textures. And
the one thing I would my criticism towards Gollum himself is I didn't like in Return of the King when you saw the flashback and he was Smeagol and he still spoke basically the same. Didn't like that. I feel like he should have been slowly corrupted, which he was, but he kind of just spoke that same way, and then he strangled the guy straight away. I mean, I get it. They kind of had to fit it all very quickly, I guess, but it felt a little bit like he was already there, and it didn't, like he saw the ring and suddenly he's there, and it's like, it's not how it really happens, though. It was all quite, and I didn't like that his voice was already fucked. Basically, I thought he should have been a little bit more human. It just felt like he was on a boat. He was already a retard. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like giving a kid with Down syndrome meth. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, you get what I mean? It's like that, where you're just like, yeah, it's going to hit you a lot harder, mate. It's just, yeah.
Well, I think it is worth saying, because I think in the book, like, Smeagol does turn that quickly when he strangles and kills Deagle.
I find it weird, though.
Like, he's corrupted very, very quickly by the ring.
Why is Bilbo not? My question.
Do you want the truthful answer, or do you want the in-law?
No, because I know what the truthful answer is, and I don't like it. But Frodo's not corrupted that quickly.
No.
There you go. Smeagol's just an idiot.
Well, was Smeagol just like a bad egg?
Like I say, he had Down syndrome. He is the kid with Down syndrome, and autism. He is the autistic Down syndrome kid who was given a bag of meth. That is basically what it was.
Because maybe the ring just amplifies what you are already.
That's what I mean.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
That's what I mean. So, I mean, I don't agree that's probably what happened. I think it was just sort of the whole, we kind of need to, like, do you know what I mean? So, but I think the voice thing should have been, I feel like for a movie, I get why they did it like that, but I feel like his voice shouldn't have been straight away like that. It should have slowly developed like his deformed body slowly developed. That's one thing.
We've got Brinsley says, "What up, lads?" And we've also got another comment from Carl who says, "Now you've seen them, Dale. Did it live up to the hype?" Because I mean, I hyped these up, didn't I? My word.
Do you know what? It's a weird thing when we talk about hype, because the more you hype something, the less it's ever going to live up to it. Like, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter. Like Last of Us, I'm not a fan of Last of Us. And I feel, I mean, I didn't mind it when I played it. Everyone's like, "Oh, this is great. And I was like, that's right. But the fact that then everyone jumped on it, it was the TV show. Now I'm like, oh, fucking shut up. Like, I really can't stand it. But like, and the whole, I'm going to be a dad. Fuck that. Anyway, right. But the point is, anything you say living up to the hype, it's quite hard because it's been so hyped. It's quite hard to hit that. So I don't really know how to answer that, because I mean, I could easily say yes, but then at the same time, I'll go, I want to read the books and see if it's even better. Like, it's a weird one. It's always a weird one, no matter if someone hypes something up. So yeah, I want to experience the whole thing and everything first and delve really into it before I really, because I think it's going to be one of those things. I really, really do. I mean, it does live up to the hype, but I want to experience more of it as well. And I think that's the best way to, like you say, it's a whole world. It's a whole world to explore. And I think the movies are just the surface level of, here's a story that happened in this world, now go explore the rest. And I feel that's what it is, and that's the thing I'm really, really interested in. I mean, I love, stories and, creating stories and all that kind of stuff. And I think this is one thing where it's like, okay, but there's a whole world here rather than just surface level. And I think there is definitely something to be said for not being told the whole story of certain things. It's like you can make that up in your own imagination, because it's like when certain characters are described, they can be quite vague, and it's like, that's cool because you've got this impression in your head, and that's what's really, really cool. And Lord of the Rings doesn't do that, because it's very sort of like, here's here, this is here, and you know everything. But there's a lot to be said for that, because it feels like you're within that world. So, but you even said that I think the books do it where they don't describe everything completely. But you were saying how they don't describe everything completely. It's like, why don't we know about that? But I think sometimes there's a genius with that. It's like, because that's supposed to be you make that up in your head.
Well, there's a
How you
character in the book who's completely removed from the movies. Everyone watching will know this character, Tom Bombadil. And it's really 50-50 what you think of Tom Bombadil. I've reached the level of acceptance with the character, but I can completely understand why they removed him from the movie. He is a character that, and I think there is a letter from Tolkien where he said something along the lines of what you just said, how he created him as an intentional anomaly, an intentional mystery within his world. It's almost like a legend itself within his legendarium. Not everything has an origin. There's like contradictory things about Tom Bombadil. It's like, well, is he this race? And it's like, well, no, he can't be that because that doesn't marry up with this. And there is no clear-cut answer. He is a mystery within the world. And there's a few other examples of that too.
I mean, I've not read the book, so I can't comment too much, but surface level hearing that at the moment, it sounds a bit like, look, that's all fine and good, and I do agree with that. But I think when you have so much of a world that you've created and described, having that could feel a little bit like, okay, well, what is it? It's, there's that mystery. It's like, yeah, but it just feels like he's just a random thing, doesn't make sense. So, but I don't know. I've not read it. I don't know. But from that explanation, it feels like that could be the case, and that's why people probably have that view. I don't know.
I think it will be interesting to see what you think of, what you think of the films again after you've read the book, but just initially what you think of the book, because they are two very, very different animals. The films, are they an accurate adaptation of the book? I think an argument could be made for and against that. I think in spirit, I think they definitely are. There are some moments to it where they do get very actiony, and Tolkien isn't like that. But I think if you are adapting these books onto film, you are going to have moments where you have big stretches of action and, you know, big punch 'em ups and battles and whatnot. And I think it does accurately capture the spirit of the Lord of the Rings books. There are some things that are thrown in there for comic relief. There's a lot of things that happen in the movies that aren't from the book. And if you are a book purist, then I can understand why you'd be angry and probably not even like the films based on some of the stuff they change.
You're going to get that on everything ever with people who are purists, and that's fine, and I completely understand that. But you're going to get that on everything. You're going to get it on no matter what turn you take. If you make it exactly like the books, imagine you made a 20-hour Lord of the Rings movie. You know, there'd be an audience for it. You know, but if you made that and you had, you know, you and that'd be great, and there would be people that go, oh, it so sticks to it. But then there'd also be a lot of people going, this is where you have the chance to do something different. So you would never please everyone.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think that there are some changes which I don't agree with in the films. I think you could have sidestepped that. There's a way that you could have got around that. But I think for the most part, overall, everything that got changed, I can understand why Peter Jackson had to do it to adapt it for the film.
There are some things that work better visually.
Yeah.
I mean, I've not read the book, so I can't compare. But like, you know, there are some things that work better visually in movie, where in books they don't as much. Like, well, one example would be, I mean, it's not an example of the thing that happened in this, but it's very battle orientated. You get this, and you get the camera panning over how everything looks. You can describe that in books and saying everything, it was a battlefield, it's this, but that works so much better in movies of doing that. Whereas in a book, you kind of follow a character or a set of characters doing a thing rather than panning to this, and then you'll get a load of shit happen with characters, just random characters, and then panning back. You can't really do that in a book. You can kind of say this was happening, but you can visualize things better through that in a movie. So there's always going to be things that work better. So I think there's always going to be room for adaptations, no matter what, really. And if you adapted the book, you know, 150% accurately, you would have moments that feel slower. It's the same with if you adapted the movie 100%, and you, like, when you make a book out of it, let's say you do it the other way around, there would be bits that you just think, hang on, oh, that's gone over your head. Or again, even slower, because on pages it just translates different. So yeah, there'll always be that, but you're never going to please everyone, ever, no matter what.
I think the one thing that oh, hang on, let me get some comments here. Brinsley says, it's always best to go in with your own expectations to avoid disappointment.
This is,
having said that, Lord of the Rings is my favorite trilogy.
Someone said that about Last Jedi to me. I didn't like Last Jedi, and they were like, yeah, but why? And I explained it, and they were like, yeah, but your expectations were this. Your expectations, and I was like, no, it was a shit film. So, no, but I do agree. I think the thing about hype, it's just when people say it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, and all you hear are great things, you're gonna go thinking, right, this is the best thing ever. So yeah, it's one of those things. I think for this as well, because my favorite character would be the world itself. I think, you know, it's a weird thing to say my favorite character, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think it's really good to delve into everything and really go, do you know what? It deserves the hype, because the thing about this is, regardless what people say in the sense of, oh, it's great, it's this, it's that, blah, 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 I think it's the foundation for a lot of high fantasy stuff. You know, it's a foundation for a lot of things in the way we see things in terms of what's a cliche. Because if someone explains to you high fantasy, you instantly just think elves,
Yeah.
orcs, a lot of it came from this. Now, not all of it, obviously. A lot of it came from, you know, Norse mythology, all this sort of stuff. So it's going to come from amalgamation of stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that, you know, a lot of new stuff has Lord of the Rings to thank for. So I think one of the biggest things would be then to delve into the rest. And it does make me want to delve into the rest. So that's obviously a great thing. But I think that's where I'll have a full opinion of going, do you know what? This is 100% worth it, rather than just, you know what, it's another good one, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We've got Robin who says, I'm late. What did I miss? Robin,
Guess who else is late? The White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
He was late too.
I was going to say, Robin, you are not late, nor are you early. You arrived precisely when you mean to. There you go.
And also, he didn't get his head cut off, so technically it's okay to be late.
You talked about the world and everything. I wanted to kind of springboard off that to talk more about like the stuff that they built for the film, the practical effects and whatnot, and the landscapes. One thing that's really evident, and actually we'll probably get to like the Hobbit films first maybe, but one thing that I would like to go through these, maybe not all of them, but just like a highlight reel of them, is the behind the scenes. Because believe me, like the appendices of the films, of how they actually made the films, are just as, if not more, emotionally fulfilling than actually watching the films for me, and gives you a whole new level of appreciation for the films themselves. The artistry gives you a bit of, obviously, trivia, just like, you know, Vigo breaking his toe when he kicks that helmet in Two Towers, which of course I had to tell you about when we got to that bit. And now it's your task to show someone else these films and tell them that little bit of trivia when you get to that scene, and just keep it going.
What happened? I know, I do like those little bits in movies and in books and stuff like that. But that happened because of this. It makes me laugh, and it's just the way my brain is. Like, I'll be reading a book and I'll be like, but that happened because of it. And then I'll be talking to myself about it in my head for 20 minutes. I'll be like, I should get back to reading it. And so, yeah.
But the main thing that you'll notice if you do get to these behind the scenes is just the level of passion and dedication from everyone on this project. And I do mean everyone, not just Peter Jackson, Philippa Boyens, Fran Walsh, everyone on the writing department and everything, but even the studio. Now, the studio, of course, is looking for a return on their investment, right? They want to make sure that these films are going to be very lucrative and make them a whole lot of money. But even the producers and just everyone involved, the studio, seem to just have complete faith in Peter Jackson. This is why a lot of people say we will never have films like this made ever again. It was this perfect symphony of the studio taking a gamble on this huge sprawling 3-picture filmed all at the same time, something that had never really been done, I don't think, at that point. Maybe you had like 1 or 2 films filmed back to back, but certainly not anything of this scale. So much of this hadn't been done before, and fantasy was kind of a dead genre in film, and this was trying to bring it to the forefront. Peter Jackson initially pitching 2 films, and the studio having faith and saying, well, it's 3 films, it's 3 books, make 3 films, don't do it in 2, do it in 3. And, you know, they were behind him every step of the way, and just seeing everything that Peter Jackson went through and his passion for Tolkien and passion for this story, which also emanated into everyone on the production crew, everyone making the armor, the props, the costumes, the models, the makeup effects and everything, actors having to endure makeup for 12 plus hours a day.
If they want to talk about it, about Wizard of Oz, that they got fucked up. So,
well, yeah,
about makeup.
But the main thing for me is the actors
and the Grinch.
Yes, yeah,
Jim
Carrey.
That was a thing. That was a big makeup.
He had to get like was it like a Secret Service interrogation?
It was
therapist or something.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Because it was like torture.
It was like, I think the weight of it was. But yeah, there was a thing. There was a thing.
But they did it, like all of them went through hardships to get through it. But the main thing for me is the cast, is just seeing all of the actors together, and when you watch the behind the scenes, it does feel like just one big family. Like they're all coming together for this single purpose of creating art, of creating the Lord of the Rings on film. But the films itself, you've got the Fellowship. It's about, you know, love and friendship and kinship with everyone. and growing together across this journey. And you really do see that from the cast. Even to this day, like in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be at London Comic-Con, where the majority of the Lord of the Rings cast are going to be, a grand majority of them. And I love that, yeah, they might not speak to each other all the time, but you've got like the actors who play Merry and Pippin are like fucking best friends in real life, and had like a podcast together, and are just like inseparable, which is great. And they all still stay in touch. And when you see them at these conventions, they're all,
I think,
you know,
Jimmy
like
Savile and Rolf Harris were good friends. I feel like there's a connection there too. So, but I'm not a fan of Merry and Pippin.
And it's that to me that these films, I always say this, and it makes me, it sounds so sad, but like I truly believe it. Like when I read the books, like the world of Tolkien, like his Legendarium, his secondary world as it's called, at times feels more real to me than this world that we're in. Like it feels so lived in. It feels like a true mythology. And when I watch these films, of course I know these films aren't real, but when you see the actors in real life still having that bond, it's almost like a little piece of the movie continues in real life. You know, you see the actors of Merry and Pippin together as best friends, and it's just like, oh, that's just, it's nice that all these relationships continued after the movies, is what I'm saying. Because a lot of films, you know, they show up, it's a day job, they do the film, and that's it. You never see them again.
Did he? He's kind of dropped off.
Well, he's still around.
He's been dropped off in terms of being friends with him. Or I don't know, as far as I'm aware, because you say he was at the thing and he went, yeah, I've got to go.
Oh, yeah. That was a Comic-Con. Yeah, he left early because he had to catch a flight to get home. Or maybe Katy Perry was giving him a hard time, but she won't now because they've broken up. So it's fine.
I mean, I think by that point, after you've had her for X amount of time, I wouldn't care if she gave me a hard time. I'd be like, look, you know, I'm me, leave me alone.
Let's see. Let's go through some of the comments here. We've got Robin who says, these movies have my favorite behind the scenes. I think this also was a bit of a tour de force for films in general, because never before this film have I ever seen such a fully documented behind the scenes. They film everything. They leave no stone unturned. Everything about the creation of these films is depicted in these appendices across the entire trilogy. And of course, they did this for the Hobbit films as well. And I feel like it's just something that a lot of other films haven't even come close to, is just showing how all the film was put together. Carl says, I've always enjoyed the Lord of the Rings animated film. It's so weird.
We mean the 3? Well, as in Fellowship 2?
So
as in the ones I'm thinking of, I'm guessing.
So the animated Lord of the Rings film is really just Fellowship and Two Towers.
That's what I mean, that one. Yeah, I'm just thinking of the right one. Yeah, so
it's fucking bizarre. It's an absolute acid trip, that movie. It has some good moments, though. It has some good moments, and there's definitely moments that are very, very Tolkienian in it. Carl says, it was such a gamble to trust a guy who made strange indie horror. Yeah, I'll never understand how he convinced them, but I'm glad he did.
Yeah, but didn't Heath Ledger, the pretty boy, play the Joker? So, you know, I think you get that a lot, don't you, where it's the unexpected. Michael Keaton wasn't favoured to play Batman. There was a lot of backlash at first. So I think you get that. And I've always said this, you get the best things in life when you take a gamble. Because it's one of those things, if you want to take a risk, if you believe in something as well, if you've got an idea and you believe in it, everyone says no. You can learn from criticism, blah, 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 blah. But if you believe in it, your thought process shouldn't be, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. It's like, if you genuinely believe in it, you go with it, because that's where the best things come from. I mean, how would they, you know, how would we get music genres that we got if everyone was just sounding the same? We wouldn't have, well, to be fair, I mean, this is completely irrelevant now, but like the Beatles were, their song Helter Skelter is one of the earliest known metal songs, is what people say. If they hadn't gone, let's do something different, and they were like, I'll just do the same, these kind of things wouldn't be happening. Yeah. So I think, the best time is to take those sort of risks. But it's mad when you hear about things like that, because that is generally where a lot come from. And yet there's so many studios that just won't take the risk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's mad.
Especially now, and that's why I mean, like, I genuinely believe, and this is really sad to think about, we will never, ever, ever get films like this ever again. It really was a complete lightning in a bottle series of circumstances. Well, that's it. Like, you know, if you look at the greatest film franchises that took the world by storm or whatever, you know, the original Star Wars trilogy, the Harry Potter franchise, the Lord of the Rings, you know, whatever it happens to be, that was a complete gamble from the studios. You know, at the time it was just like, oh well, we'll try and depicting this children's book series, or Star Wars was an original idea.
The thing about Star Wars, it was, like I said, an original idea. It never sort of been done like that before. Lord of the Rings, the book was ages ago. Thing about Harry Potter, I think it was sort of like, right, it's winning awards, let's get hold of it now. So I think that was the bit of a difference there with that. But yeah, it's
still a gamble, because it might not have taken to the big screen though. Like what takes to books might not be the same for films.
Do you know what I think was a gamble though? Doing it when they weren't all finished.
Well, yeah,
because you get to some movie and you think, I probably should have included that because that's actually quite relevant. And like, you know, I think that was a bit weird, but now you will never get a studio saying, right, we're going to take a chance on this. It will be like, well, why make the next Lord of the Rings when we can just make another Lord of the Rings? Why make the next? Did that with Lilo and Stitch and Moana.
Yeah, we are living in like the remake generation at the moment, live action remake or whatever it happens to be. We are just retooling the same shit. We're not coming up with anything new. And it's such a
cash.
Massively fucking depressing time to be in. It really is. And at times I think,
to be fair,
is it just me getting old?
We all do it in our lives and stuff and go, oh, you know what, this is just, if I do that, it's quick money. You know, we all do that sort of stuff. So I do get it, but I mean, do you know what? People of different generations are going to have different opinions to me, but I do think the world takes less gambles now than it did.
Yeah.
But it's probably people of different generations that go, oh, actually, no. So I don't know, but I do think the world takes a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit less.
Brinsley says, what I love about Lord of the Rings is that people see it as peak fantasy, but really the third age is overshadowed by the previous age, like the decline we see, all the old ruins, people discussing the days of old and the empires of men diminishing. Yeah, I was going to bring that up when you talk about the world itself. The world that we see in the Lord of the Rings, and to some extent the Hobbit as well, but definitely more present in the Lord of the Rings, it's a world in decline. It's a world in decay.
There's so many things like that though, isn't there, where it's like you see something, it's always got a past. You never see the past. I mean, sometimes you do as prequel and all that sort of stuff, but it always starts with that. But I think because then you've got the whole, it's had this past and it's how the world's dealt with it. So I think that always has the initial story that people want to experience.
And I kind of love that. Like when you look at the whole Legendarium, when you take a step back and you just observe it all, you've got the stuff in the Silmarillion where it goes from creation. You've got gods waging war on Earth. That's literally almost like a tectonic shift, changing the very landscape, fashioning the Earth, to very, very incredibly high fantasy stuff when you get and biblical stuff almost in the Silmarillion. And then you have the Hobbit, which is like your whimsical fairy tale. And then as we push on through the ages and we get towards the end of the third age, as you mentioned, Brinsley, like we're seeing ruins, we see, the elves are diminishing and they're heading into the west, and the time of whimsy and magic is sort of subsiding, so that the age of man and eventually getting into our modern world will take over. And all of these, brave knights and, slaying dragons and everything.
Yeah, no one's really a knight anymore. They don't really slay dragons anymore, do they? Do we still have knights? Do they still exist?
Yeah.
Does the king have knights?
I guess.
Are those people in the fluffy hats, are they knights? I don't know. I saw them playing a cover of Paranoid the other day.
Really?
Outside Buckingham Palace, yeah, the fluffy hats. They were playing Paranoid. I thought that was really cool.
Brinsley says, fully enough, I haven't seen the appendices and I've watched the film so many times. Oh my God, Brinsley, please do yourself a favor and watch that. You will have a whole different opinion on the films, even though you love the films. If you've got to spare 9 hours per movie.
Do you know what I find weird though about the word whole? Like whole nut. It's like the whole of it is a nut. But aren't pistachio nuts complete nuts as well? So aren't they whole nuts?
Or they've got shells on as well.
You take the shell is a whole nut. So take a shell off a pistachio nut, it's a whole nut.
I guess. So.
What about a peanut? That's a whole nut.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm just saying, whole nut is just it's a weird word.
It's a pointless term.
Yeah.
Robin says,
just like that Turner conversation.
Robin says, have you heard the Phil Dragash audio project? That is my preferred audiobook listening of The Lord of the Rings. It's astounding that one person produced that. It's amazing. It's incredibly immersive. Towards the beginning, there's some annoying bits like where he'll mispronounce a word or he'll flub a sentence, and for some reason didn't re-record the line, which does temporarily take you out of the audiobook. But the choice of music and the voices and the fact that all was one person produced that, edited it, recorded it, everything, it's incredible. And its positives by far outweigh its negatives. So for me, I always go Blue Fax for The Hobbit, and I go Phil Dragash for The Lord of the Rings. Brinsley says, wasn't the Beatles trying to make a Lord of the Rings movie? They were. They actually, there was a time, I think, where it was either their practice studio or their house. They lived next door to Tolkien himself. Tolkien was quite old at this point, and his wife was very, very sick, and he was caring for her. And he could keep hearing this loud, noisy, young and up-and-coming band practicing and just being very noisy and belligerent. And he wasn't a big fan of them. So many, many years later, they gave him a treatment for their idea of a Lord of the Rings film. And he basically said, much more eloquently than me, "Fuck no," and as a little bit of a revenge dig. But also,
do you hear about the time someone knocked at Paul McCartney's door with long brown hair and said, "I'm Jesus," and literally a beard and everything, was like, "I'm Jesus," and then he brought him in, went to the studio where all the other guys were, and said, "Look, there's a guy here. He says he's Jesus. I don't know if it's true, but I'm not taking chances. Can you just sit in the corner?" There's a legit thing happening. So it's like, if Jesus comes knocking, you just let him sit down. So,
oh, that's amazing. There's one adaptation of the Lord of the Rings that I would love to see. It's not a Beatles version. I would love to see a Muppets Lord of the Rings.
that'd be cool.
Could you imagine? So I feel like you'd have to have one human actor in there. You know how you have Michael Caine with Scrooge, and
yeah, I'd like to see.
I think Gandalf or Aragorn needs to be human. I think.
Yeah, one I would like to see. So the Animaniacs, they did a Star Wars. They did like a Lord of the Rings. That'd be cool. That'd be a really, really cool thing.
Robin says, "The Lord of the Rings, the only post-apocalypse story I actually like." Yeah. It's like Mad Max for elves.
I'm trying to think of other post-apocalyptic stories.
Oh God, there's loads.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of good ones.
Studio Ghibli.
That's not one.
No,
Ishka. Oh, sorry. What you mean, like the whole of Studio Ghibli? Yeah, I'm just trying to think of something that stands out, like a big. Do you know what I mean?
Terminator.
Yeah, Terminator. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, I'm trying to think of big franchise. But yeah, Terminator. Yeah, that's yeah.
I was going to ask about the music. Howard Shore's score.
The music's cool. I like the music. To be fair, I do like the music, but I will go on record saying I've heard quite a few better movie soundtracks. So I'm not because it's not great, but I've heard more that stand out, and I think it's good. And I think the things that do stand out are great, but I have heard quite a number of better ones.
I feel like you need to listen to the soundtrack on its own. Maybe you've only watched it with the films, which is good enough, but like the level, the fact that he can just the soundtrack almost tells the story in of itself, which any good music should do, but capturing the essence of again cultures and a history, weaving the languages into the music itself, the melodies, like the leitmotifs are just so identifiable. Like whenever that Shire music kicks up, whenever they're talking about home or whether we're in the Shire, is just amazing. You've got like the Isengard music, the 5/4 sort of off rhythmic time for the orcs. Just everything, like the Elvish music, the choral music, it's just fucking outstanding. My favorite piece of music, if I had to pick one, and there's so many, it would be the Rohan theme. You know, when it kicks in when they do the battle of the charge at Pelennor Fields, that scene still gives me goosebumps to this day. It's just absolutely outstanding when King Theoden gives his battle speech and that music kicks in and they charge into certain death into the ranks of the orcs at Pelennor Fields. It's bloody phenomenal.
I've just heard better. That's all I'm saying. I've just heard better.
By the way, I will say, if anyone is lucky to get to see the films live in concert, please do it. I saw it a couple of years ago at the Royal Albert Hall, and they're actually doing a few dates next year. I was going to go again, but it depends if I've got enough money set aside for it. I think they're doing them over a couple of weekends. So if you are in the UK and you do get the chance, please go and see it live. It's bloody incredible. Yeah, Robin said Dale just committed third blasphemy.
I do that a lot. I commit a lot of blasphemy. It's great.
Ramsey says soundtrack is epic. I love Howard Shore's work. I honestly believe the movies wouldn't have had the same heart with him. No, I completely agree.
I agree. I know. I get that. I'm just saying. I've heard some good soundtracks. I'm just saying, I've heard some good soundtracks. You know,
This to me is just, well, this to me is the best movie soundtrack of all time. All three of them, probably followed by John Williams's Star Wars soundtrack. Take your pick out of any of the first six.
You know, it's like someone saying I love Queen, and I go, I've heard better. I've heard Van Halen. It's like that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I hate Queen. I love Queen. I'm just saying that's
you need to listen to this soundtrack again on its own merits. I think you'll come around.
I just compared it to Queen. That's saying something. Come on.
Carl says, not to bring the mood down, but is there anything Dale didn't like about the films? That's a good point. I want to know that. Yeah.
Well, my biggest thing was Gollum. Not Gollum in general. No. Do you know the thing I said about the voice?
Oh,
that was one criticism I did have.
The voice specifically, in case anyone's just joined, is that when we get the flashback in Return of the King,
he already had it, and I thought it was a bit.
As Smeagol, he already had the voice.
Yeah, I did think that was a little bit. As an overall, I don't know if there's an overall thing that I'd go, oh, I didn't like this in particular. Should have done this. Maybe it's because knowing in the book the eye isn't a thing, but I did think that whole scanning and found for it and then it's got. I don't know how I felt about that, but maybe it's just because knowing it's not in the book, but then I'll read the book and not see it, and it's a bit weird. So I don't know. I just felt like that was unneeded. The eye, it just felt a little bit like it saw him, and it moved, and then he went to the fucking mountain. Then he moved back. He was like, "Oh shit, he's there," and it was like, and then it was gone. It was like we could have done the whole thing without the eye. The fact that it wasn't there in the book is that I've said some things look visually better, but it's like. But that literally had no place being. It just seemed a bit of a weird placement that then to do that was like, well, then that got destroyed. And I don't know. From what I've heard about Sauron in the books, it just seems like he's got some entity we don't know about, and having that just seemed a little bit pointless. I wasn't very keen on the eye. I think it's a really cool looking thing. Like I remember having the top trumps cards and you had the eye on it. So you had Sauron. And I think if you were to get like let's say you got a Lord of the Rings tattoo, I think that eye would look really cool as like a nice, it kind of sums it up. Do you know what I mean? I think that's cool, but I think it was a bit of a pointless move.
I think it's a little bit more visual for a movie to have something of a bad guy there. Of course, we get him in the full suit of armor when we've got the prologue scene.
But what about a mystery of having him there? There's a thing.
No, I agree. But I think that Sauron is just. He's barely on the page in the book. You know, the threat of Sauron is consistent, but there isn't like an all-out big, punch him up with like boss fight with him at the end. There almost was in the end of Return of the King at the Black Gate. That moment where Aragorn, right before they charge in, he sort of goes into a trance and everything goes really eerie. He did originally. They had it where he sees a spectral vision of Sauron in fair form, who then materializes into the big hulking suit of armor Sauron again from the prologue. And it's like, how Isildur fought Sauron and corrupted. It was like Aragorn tries to fight him again but redeem his name.
I wasn't keen on was the lack of ring race in Two Towers. Was not.
They're in there. They're in there.
That's it.
They're on the Fell Beasts.
Yeah.
They're in a couple of scenes.
And then they don't do as much. Like I was.
Yeah, but
I found the lack of ring race disturbing.
I think you'd have too much of them though, because in the first one, they're pretty much consistently pursuing them all the way up until they get to the fords of the Bruinen, and then they dip away for a bit, and then we get them back, and there's a little bit of a threat in the second film, and then they come back.
Sheila ran away like a little bitch.
She lived. Sheila lives.
You know what I said? I like it when my favorite character dies. Come on, you can fucking kill off Sheila.
Let's see. Bath Time says, "Oh my god, lads! I was at a restaurant. Did Dale love it?"
Should we just change the whole thing now? And go, no, fucking hate
Let's
it.
just talk about food. Let's talk about food.
What did I had a pizza. Forgot.
We had pisa. We had pizza and Doritos. Very, very healthy, but also incredible snack choices for the Lord of the Rings.
I need a banana just to level me out.
No, it's fine. You had a what smoothie did you have? You got the bottle down there.
Kiwi, kale, apple, and
cucumber, wasn't it? Or something?
That's it. Cucumber.
Yeah. So very, very healthy green smoothie of some kind, whatever you had. Brinsley says, the eye was created for the movies, I believe, but it's a fair criticism. I think it works well for the movies, though. I kind of always had
a visual. I think the visual looks cool. Like I say, if someone was going to get like a Lord of the Rings tattoo and they got the eye, so that's a really cool represents it. It represents the movie really well. It visually looks cool. I personally feel if the eye wasn't there, the movie would turn out exactly the same. And yeah, it wasn't needed. And knowing it's not in the books is kind of like, well, why was it there then? I get visually, you're like, okay, but we could do this. Cool. But what benefit have we got from having it? Not really any. It just seemed like that to me. It seemed pointless. And then anything it did seemed like, well, why did we do that? And then anything it did never had a fucking payoff.
Well, otherwise we just see a tower collapse and we'd be like, oh, okay. Whereas we've got that.
Do so many better things. Like you could have a whole. There's a possibility of like I don't know because
they just hear him shouting in the room like, oh
yeah,
like
shit. But I don't know. It was weird because it looked at him and then it went and it was like, so what did that do? It looking at him. Oh no, he's over there. And then it collapsed and it was like, so what did that do? It just all seemed really sort of like, what the fuck was
I do think Sauron needs to question his priorities a bit because he sees the Hobbit that is carrying the ring and he's right there and he's got him dead in his sight. And then I know the rest of the Fellowship create the distraction, but I'm like, Sauron should be like, okay, distraction. My armies are handling that. Anyway, I've got the ring right there. Guys, let's send the ring wraith to get him. So yeah, there is a little bit of a discrepancy there.
Yeah, it was a bit.
And then when he gets to the volcano, he just like whips his gaze back, like, "What the fuck? How did you get over there?"
And after that, it doesn't do anything again. It's like, so what was the point in looking over? It's like it was just a bit weird.
But there is a pretty cool thing that I don't know if this is in the books. I don't know if this is just something that people have hypothesized, or maybe this is something Tolkien's mentioned in a letter or something, or it could be in the appendices. People have said like, well, if Mount Doom's the only place where this ring can be destroyed, why isn't it like guard posted? Why doesn't it have like a legion of orcs on that volcano at all times guarding the door? And the reason is because Sauron is not, he doesn't fear anyone will destroy the ring because he knows that it's all corrupting and
fucking egotistical, isn't it? Like,
but he knows that none of them will drop it in. They will always get corrupted before the end. I'm like, that's pretty badass. Like it's just like there's a doorway there. There's no.
I still put guards out there. I'd be like, I'm still fucking double checking that shit. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
What I loved about watching these films with you for the first time is that as we were sort of like pacing these out, when we get to the end of one of the movies, it was really fun to hear your theories as to where you thought the story was going to go. Some of the highlights for me was we got to the end of Fellowship, and of course, when you're watching Fellowship for the first time, Boromir's dead. We'll talk about Boromir in a second. Gandalf's dead, and you was like, initially, you said, I think a lot of these are going to die. I think a lot of the main Fellowship's going to die by the end, and I wanted to bite my lip. I wanted to bite my lip because I was like, everyone in the Fellowship is already dead in this movie. You know, like the only two that die in this first movie. Everyone else makes it out, but I didn't want to tell you that at the time. But it was fun to hear you.
Thinking, I was like, when people die.
And then when Gandalf falls off the bridge of Khazad-dûm, you said, I don't know. He feels like a character that's probably going to come back stronger in some way.
He's going to do a Obi-Wan.
Yeah, like you was like,
look at what he did.
You initially said, is he going to be like Force Ghost Gandalf, or I feel like he's going to come back even more powerful than last time. And I was like,
not as a ghost, I didn't mean, but more powerful and actual thing. He said that kind of vibe, which I was correct, kind of. You know, basically.
What's really funny is the theatrical trailer for the Two Towers spoiled Gandalf's return in it. In the trailer, they show Gandalf coming back as Gandalf the White. I feel like if you read the book, fair enough. But if you're watching the movies, like you want that to be a surprise when you watch the movie.
That is a bit of
especially because they throw you off with a misdirection. There's the bit where, they overlay his voice with Christopher Lee's when they're in the forest before he fully reveals himself. So they want to create that air of mystery around the character. But yeah, the trailer just gave it away completely. And then what were some of your other predictions?
Gollum was going to jump in after the
That was it. And
kind of happened.
Yeah.
He went in with it, but I expected them to throw it in and he goes, no! and he just yeah, that's what I expected.
And then as we were watching it, you also said like when Gollum gets the ring at the end and he starts jumping around, you said
I got right from the book.
Because... You were like, wouldn't it be funny if he just starts jumping around and then falls in? I was like, unironically, that's how the book ends.
He just trips over. I'm like, there he fell. So some stuff. And I was right about them him leading him to Shelob. Although it didn't happen for fucking ages into the movie. I thought it'd be like a beginning thing.
Yeah.
That was like, and I thought Shelob would be bigger. I was very upset. I thought Shelob would be much bigger than that.
What do you think to the like the creatures and everything in this? So like the CGI monsters, but also like the makeup on like the orcs and the Uruk-hai
I
and
thought the
whatnot.
orcs makeup and stuff looked cool. I like the orcs. The orcs are one of my favorite design of any orcs I've ever seen in anything.
Did you have a favorite orc in particular?
Shitbag. What's his name?
Shitbag.
What's his name?
Oh, Gorebag.
There you go.
Gorebag.
Gorebag and
Shagrat.
Dash it, Shagrat. You can see my confusion. Yeah, Gorebag and Shagrat. That's it. Gorebag and Shagrat. So, Gorebag was the Cockney one, wasn't he?
They're pretty much all Cockney. To be honest,
but the one that was a proper Keith Richards one. The one that reminded me of Keith Richards.
Yeah. Okay.
That was Shitbag. Gorebag.
Yeah.
That's it. Gorebag. That was him, and he he was fun, and he did the drop kick thing, and that was.
He does do the drop. That is a clean drop kick.
He was my favorite one, but I did like their designs, and I loved the way they all acted. I think they were probably. Yeah, they were probably my favorite race of things, because the thing is, when you think orcs, you think these big green, like, do you know what I mean? A bit more of a troll like that, but you know what I mean? Yeah. But you think the weird kind of, they've got the fucking septum piercing and the whole, but these were just really devilish fucking, I don't know, like
creatures.
Yeah, look kind of a cross between the ghouls in Fallout and like little orcs. Do you know what I mean? And kind of put them together, and it was like, it was really, really cool. I did like them. I like the creatures, like the big elephant. What are they called? The elephant? The big elephants?
Two names: Oliphants or Moomakill. Take your pick.
Oh no, Moomakill. It sounds cool. I like that Moomakill. But yeah, the big Moomakill things. They are. I really like them. I like the tusks on them and the way that I love when they fell down on things. They were great. There was something I was going to mention.
Well, it was actually during that moment with the Oliphants in Return of the King, the big battle on Pelennor Fields, where you was like, I prefer this to Two Towers, or I prefer this to Helm's Deep. Now, a lot of people will always say and champion Helm's Deep as the best battle. Some say in cinema history, but certainly out of the Lord of the Rings films. But you were quite the opposite.
Yeah, I preferred this because there was more happening. I think Helm's Deep captures more of a gothic-y, dark tone, obviously. But I think more happens in this, and I think you have more of a. I think I just really like the Moomakill. Yes, got it right. I'm going to say moon babies at first, but that's
You're doing good. You're doing good. You remember?
I'm really bad with names, and I'm doing okay. But yeah, the Moomakill, I think they were really cool, and I like their addition to it. It was kind of like the Battle of Thousand Heartless in Kingdom Hearts 2, when they got rid of the fucking behemoths, which really pissed me off. You see them in the trailers, and then they get rid of them. But anyway, it was like that, having these big things on one side, and I just think it was great. I think a lot more differences happened. You had something happen over here, and then you had this, and then you had fucking Mulan show up for some reason. And like, do you know what I mean? You had different things happen, and I think Helm's Deep was, I think I can really see why people prefer that battle. But I think it was more of the clash was a constant clash of going, and this one was a bit more this happened and this happened here, and there was more stuff to happen to advance the battle, if that makes sense. And they were throwing heads at each other. That was cool. Oh,
they catapult the severed heads.
Cool.
Yeah,
that was a highlight.
It's like, release the prisoners, catapults. Like, that's a great scene.
I like it when people get creative with things like that. It's like when serial killers post body parts for your letterbox. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're going to do something, do it right.
Well, Peter Jackson, as someone alluded to earlier in the comments, like, on a channel that shall not be named, my old channel that shall not be named, I did a retrospective of all of Peter Jackson's films, because I'd never seen any of them outside of Lord of the Rings, King Kong, and The Lovely Bones. I hadn't seen any other Peter Jackson films.
Long.
So we went all the way back and we worked our way through, and I was going through all the films leading up to Lord of the Rings, and all the time I was like, well, some of these films are like massively entertaining and like really creative and fun visually, also like the gore aspect to it. But I was like, none of this is screaming, this is the director of the Lord of the Rings at all. It's a remarkable, I don't understand how the studio went ahead with Peter Jackson, but I'm so glad they did. But yeah, like the gore aspect of things, that's definitely there from the early days of his career. And there are moments in the Lord of the Rings where there are some like really elaborate kills, or
I don't think it's that. Do you know what I mean? I don't think there is a lot.
Well, you got some decapitations in there. You got, like limbs being cut off. There's fun, creative kills like the Moomakill, and
I don't think any of it seems out of place. So I don't think it just seems any sort of like over the top. That's the thing.
Let's see. Oh wow, we've had a lot of comments come in. Let me just try and Bath Time says, did Dale catch that Sauron lost the ring and his fingers, as did Frodo?
Yes,
that caught you off guard, didn't it? When he was like, yeah, you were like, holy shit, they bit his finger
that
off.
Caught me off guard, because when he did that, I thought he bit his ear off. That's what I thought he was doing, because obviously you can't see him because he's invisible. I thought he'd pulling his ear off, so I was like, oh, he bit his finger off. But that was quite a little a nice little comparison there.
Let's see. Roman says, not to open the can of worms that is Shadow of Mordor, but the Nazgul become real characters for me after Shadow of War. They were just creepy until that point. Yeah, Tolkien only names two of them.
I don't think that's a good thing, because I want to play those games fully. But if they're making extra characters about them, I don't think that's a good thing. I like the mystery.
Well, Shelob's also a shape-shifting, really insanely hot chick in that movie. She's like insanely hot and can also turn into a giant spider.
See that. I feel that would. I feel there'll be some weird, but I feel there'll be some weird, creepy thing if I go, you know what, she's really hot. I'll be like, don't like the fact that that's the character I think is the hottest. So, don't know if we should open that can of worms. I think I should leave it alone.
Brinsley says the intro for Two Towers is still awesome. Yeah, the first time I saw that on the big screen, I was blown away. I still watch it now thinking this scene's just incredible. That's the bit where we have the flashback of Gandalf falling down with the Balrog.
Yeah.
Fucking incredible shit. Bath Time says Helm's Deep is by far the best battle. It's so well constructed in its highs and lows. There are definite pendulum swings in that battle, which
Gimli can't even fucking see what's going on.
Hey, he holds his own in that fight. He's really good.
And because he's behind the fucking wall. He can't get over it.
He gets more kills than Legolas. He gets 43. Legolas only gets 42.
I prefer Hadhod.
Which I think JX made this comment actually, and in the book, 43 and 42 is probably a fair sum in terms of a kill count. When you just see the sheer amount in that battle of Uruk-hai, and very, very early on in the battle, Legolas says, I'm on 17. To me, it feels very, very unlikely that he would have only have killed 42. I feel like his kill count should probably be well into the hundreds.
That's why you bring a bottle of gasoline and a lighter. And you go, now I'm on 2,000.
I feel like the guy who got the biggest kill count was the Uruk-hai with a flaming torch that the Olympic torch Uruk-hai that blows up the wall. I think he got the highest kill count, maybe. Bath Time says Pelennor Fields is crippled by the Army of the Dead, proper Deus Ex Machina. Yeah, the Army of the Dead do just show up and just everything is immediately sorted out.
I like them. They were fun.
All the orcs are killed, Minas Tirith sorted out. We're fine.
Gimli was going, go away. That was fun.
Okay, so negatives. That's actually some of my negatives, and it's mostly to do with Gimli and Return of the King. I feel like some of the jokes with Gimli go a little bit of a step too far. There's that moment.
Did, to be fair.
And the one extended scene which I just actively dislike is the bit where you see them board the boats, the Corsairs. You've got Aragorn who says to Legolas, fire a warning shot past the bosun's ear, and Gimli nudges the bow so he hits one of them. I don't like that. In the theatrical, we don't know whether the Army of the Dead agreed to join Aragorn. He just says, what say you? And we cut back to the battle. And we're left in this state of, okay, so what happened with that? And we go through a huge stretch of the movie without knowing. And then when those ships show up at the end and Aragorn jumps off, it's a huge surprise to us, which unfortunately in the extended edition, they outright, we see them board the boats. So it kills that suspense a little bit. So there are some moments in the extended edition where I'm not as keen on it, and I do prefer some of the theatrical changes. But overall, if you're going to show someone these films, you show them the extended editions. The positives definitely outweigh the negatives. Let's talk about some other stuff. What did I want to talk about? We talked about the makeup on the orcs and everything. That is unfortunately something when we get to the Hobbit films that's thrown to the wayside. They go the route of CGI orcs.
Yay.
And I think a lot of that was probably the lack of preparation time that Peter Jackson had. And
I think these days that people need to have more of an attitude of just because you can doesn't mean you should, to a lot more things. I get it, it's probably a bit cheaper than getting I think
it was just a question of time when it came to the Hobbit films.
But I do think there's something to it's more authentic. As shit as the sequel trilogy is, they brought back a puppet Yoda. They kind of did that sort of thing. And I think it looked pretty shit in it, to be fair. I think it looked so out of place because the way the sequels were done, but that's a story for another day, or we'll be here for another 8 hours. But, it's it's something where I thought that was kind of cool that they did that, and they were kind of, you know, looking at, well, this is where it started. Let's really, you know, do the thing that everyone loves. We don't have to CGI everything, which is one thing episode 1 got wrong. Fucking CGI and fucking Yoda. And the one thing I fucking miss about Puppet Yoda in episode 1 is where he goes, everything, and his eyes widen. CGI doesn't fucking, it's just everything. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Why? And it fucking annoys me. But this isn't about Yoda. What was it about? Oh yeah, the fucking CGI.
CGI
yeah, I just think there are some things where it's like it does actually look better if you properly do, you know, you properly actually face paint this, that. I think there's
a tangible quality to it, isn't it? I mean, if you look at the Uruk-hai in Fellowship, where they're pulling them out of the mud and they're all slimy and gross, and you know, you've got an actual actor there in makeup. It just adds to the realism of that creature, especially when the makeup's done as incredibly well as it is in Lord of the Rings. When you've got something that's CGI, it just lacks weight. This is not just like a blanket statement against CGI, because CGI can do wonderful things. But I think when you've produced a trilogy that showcases the levels that you can go to with practical effects and prosthetics and how well it can be done, you then jump, you know, 10 or however many years in the future when The Hobbit comes out. You want to see the advancements in that, and to see it just go to CGI, you know, and the textures aren't great on it, and you could tell that in some aspects the CGI was sort of rushed. It's just a bit of a shame.
You know, whales explode.
Yes.
Didn't know that until the other day. Whales explode.
Well, any animal explodes if you poke it when it's filled with all the gases. When
humans can explode.
Yes.
Do you know what? They learn something every. I didn't know.
They bloat, don't they? They bloat with like when in decomposition.
Because they're so big, it's like.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool, isn't it? Though it is when you think about it. All I need to do
probably
is get
not
a whale.
Cool if you're there and you feel with like
get a whale and go
whale guts all over you. It's probably not the best thing. But
how cool of a prank would that be if someone lived by the ocean? You get a whale and then you put them out on the beach. You're covered in whale. Oh, that would be so cool. Oh, that's my dream.
You'd have to like stand a mile away. You'd have to have like the world's longest stick with a pin on the end of it.
Hey, if I was rich and I had a rich friend who lived on the if I lived on the beach, I wouldn't care. I'd fucking put him on the beach and he's asleep. You're covered in whale guts. That'd be a fun time.
I've got a comment from Cars talking about the Shadow of Mordor games.
Well, this is the thing. I only said because Robin said they have more of a character, and I thought, oh, is that needed? So I don't know if it'll ruin them. But I have heard they're good. I played a bit of one.
They are fun
like
games.
A little bit.
Yeah, you just have to ignore the lore completely with it and just have fun playing it. And yeah, that's probably the best description. Carl says it's a cross between Assassin's Creed. You got like the parkour and the platforming stuff of Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I do remember that a bit.
The combat of the Batman games. Yeah. Let's see. In Fellowship and Two Towers, the jokes kind of reveal stuff about Gimli. Don't tell the elf. In Return of the King, he's just a clown. And I know he's a different character, but it grates. I still think there's a natural build to his character. I do think they go a little step too far with some of his scenes, as I mentioned in Return of the King, but I think it's still all there. You've still got the kill count. You've still got that he's very, very, you know, close friendship with Aragorn and Legolas. You've got the wonderful, the character arc right at the very end. What about fighting side by side with a friend? You've got that. And he has always been like a funny character, but they definitely do ramp that up as the films go through. But he's not like, you know, Jar Jar Binks level or anything like that when it comes to comic relief. He's still pretty cool in my opinion. One character that you really enjoyed actually was Eowyn. You know, the blonde Rohan lady,
Of course I did.
The Mulan like character.
Of course I enjoyed.
She was your lady in these movies. Mine's Liv Tyler.
That's because I imagined her in the kitchen and I thought she would make a good sandwich. Actually, to be fair, it was wasn't it?
She'd make a shitty sandwich.
She would, yeah, Two Towers.
Did you see
Two Towers? Wasn't it?
Yeah. Did you see that stew she made?
Yeah, and then he threw it to the floor.
And there's like a hair in it in the close up. Like, ugh.
All she needs is a good slap, and she'll.
dude, what the fuck?
And she'll get better in the kitchen.
Are you just gonna let
Yeah, I thought we'll leave that there.
I thought you really liked her character. You mentioned that she was like pretty badass.
I thought she was cool, but I'm just making a point of thing. But no, I liked her. I thought she was cool. But there were better characters. I liked the Orc Keith Richards. That was my favourite. And I was very excited to see Shelob. But Shelob wasn't as big as I imagined, and I was very sad about that. I expected the giant spider. And we got a medium spider.
You got to read the Silmarillion for that.
I know. I'm looking forward to that. It's the big spider in it. We got a spider that was maybe as big as this room, which is not big enough. We need a house. We need a house-sized spider.
See, this is because goes back to expectations. You went in, hyped as all hell for Shelob. Shelob's going to be the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, maybe I should have written the character of Shelob then to make a giant fucking spider. That's what we should have done.
Robin says, interesting point here, actually. Unpopular opinion. We, the nerds, love the extended editions, but the theatrical cut is pure cinematic art. Perfect cuts and pacing in every respect. I would agree to a point. However, I think there are some scenes that the theatrical versions absolutely should have had that just make sense for the rest of the story. The main ones that I can think of would be the Gifts of Galadriel. Stuff like giving the elven rope to Sam and the cloaks, especially because, shield you from unfriendly eyes, which we get in that scene in Two Towers where they get to the Black Gate. I think that's an absolutely integral scene. There's a lot of stuff they do with Boromir in that first movie, which greatly enhances the character, especially in Two Towers as well. We get that flashback scene with Faramir and Boromir and Denethor, which sets us up nicely for the next movie and completely gives us even more of a deeper insight into Boromir's character and what a tragic character he was. And then the main one in Return of the King, there's loads of great extended scenes in that film, but the main one is the fate of Saruman. Although it's not faithful to the book, cutting him out of the film when he's the secondary antagonist in your film made no sense to me. So I can understand what you're saying, and there are some scenes which I do definitely prefer the theatrical version for, but overall, for me, the extended editions win out. I mean, that's something that you could go to. You could go to the theatrical versions after this, I suppose.
But why would I? If I liked them, why would I want to watch them with less?
Well, yeah, that's exactly. That's my opinion on them.
Exactly. I mean, I can understand it because I think a lot of places do the whole. They don't, because the average person is going to want to be in the cinema for 2.5 hours and then start going, okay, so, you know what I mean? They want. I get that. I completely do, but I just think if I really enjoyed them as they are, I'm not going to go back to a version where there's less involved.
Bath time here with a hot take, hotter than the fires of Mount Doom itself. Christ almighty. My unpopular opinion is Boromir, Merry, and Sam are dreadful casting in the films.
Interesting.
Ooh.
I don't think they're dreadful casting. I hate Pippin, though. He really pissed me off.
Wow.
Really wanted Pippin to die, and I wanted him to bleed everywhere.
Oh,
I really wanted a
okay, that's what you hated. Pippin. Did he get better for you though?
No, he didn't get fucking better. Every time, he just always was a little. He was just always an absolute prick. Everything he did, it wasn't even a whole lot. It was just fucking hell. Just get rid of him. Every single time, he was a tag along when you're walking somewhere. Imagine you're on a hike with someone. And they just keep falling down, and you're like, mate, just leave him. Just leave him. He was literally that guy. And, every 5 minutes, he'd wander into a house, and then some dude would be running after you, and you'd be like, we need to... he just irritated the fuck out of me.
I think Pippin...
Everything he did hindered everyone. He never... What did he do to advance anything? I know what you're going to say, but say it.
I think Pippin more so than redeemed himself. So, through his own foolishness, he looks into the Palantir, but in doing so... as Gandalf says, they're strangely fortunate because it gives them a glimpse into the enemy's plan, so they can just get there one step ahead of time. He saves Gandalf at one point in the movies where he stabs that orc right as it's about to kill Gandalf. And then there's going to be more.
Not helping.
No. There's going to be more. What else does Pippin do? What else does Pippin do in these movies?
I'm sure I've redeemed.
He saves Faramir. He saves Faramir from the flames. He's the one who runs to Gandalf.
He does indeed. Well done. I'm sure I've done things that redeem myself, and there's people out there that still hate me. So do you know what? Fuck him. He's a prick. Didn't like him. I thought he should have died a long time ago. I thought he should have died. He didn't die, and I really was upset about that.
Wow.
Absolute prick. I would pay to watch an hour of watching him getting tortured.
Oh my god.
Fucking dickhead.
Robin says, my co-workers only watch these films for Eowyn's warrior moment, and it's really killed the character for me.
She's Mulan.
She is. Bath time. This is actually going to link us to something. Bath time. I haven't forgotten about our collab. now that I've got a few weeks off, I was actually going to reach out to you with an email in the next couple of days, because I think you pitched an idea of, would the Lord of the Rings films be as well received now? If they were to come out now and say, like, you know, like 2025.
Do you know what would have happened? They would have made Majiggy, whatever her name is, Baker's wife, what's her name?
Eowyn.
That's it, Eowyn. Would have made, they would long that out. They would fucking hammer on that and go, nah, she's the hero of the story. That's what they would have done. That's
what they did in the War of the Rohirrim movie. So I think, Bath Time pitched a number of video topics to me, some of which I am not learned in at all. But I think one of the video ideas, correct me if I'm wrong, was, would the Lord of the Rings films...
Some of which I'm just not down for. Like, was Jimmy Savile misunderstood?
God.
Let's talk about it.
There's some that I purely don't have enough insight on to really have an engaging chat about it. But I think one of the video topics that Bath Time mentioned was, would the Lord of the Rings films be as well received now, as positively received now?
I don't think they would hold up badly and would have as bad. I don't think really there's anything that you think, oh, they would probably change that I can think of.
I think they would really play up the Eowyn thing,
and they would play it up, sure.
They do a little bit, like the fairly on the nose "I am no man" line.
Yeah, but I don't think at all. She was never annoying. The thing is,
that's true.
And the thing is, I've always said this. You can have strong female characters, you can do whatever, you know. But I think nowadays people just get too hung up in it. Like I say, they would really hammer on that. They would really shine a light on that and make her the fucking center of attention. But she's not the center of attention. It's okay to have a strong female that isn't, or it's okay to have a strong female that is, as long as it's a good story or whatever. And I think today they would hammer on it. That's just like, okay, but we don't need. So that's one thing I think they would do. But she's not a character to do that with. She never got annoying, and she never got this whole big. It was just that's who she was. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like Mulan. That's who she was, and it's just what she had a reason to do it. It was none of this big agenda thing, and so yeah, there were things that would change, but I don't think there's not really anything I can think would be, you know, or would they change that or anything?
Bath Time says Sam versus Shelob. Sam versus Shelob. I'm convinced is an echo of the Eärendil versus Ancalagon, the Black fight, with the light of Eärendil as the ship and Shelob as Ancalagon. That's a great part. I've never even considered that before, but I think you're absolutely right. I think definitely the light of Eärendil, even after all these years, still prevailing against ultimate evil. Brinsley says, this is referring to Eowyn, I still like her character better in the books, but imagine if they released the films today, people would call it woke as hell for the Eowyn moment.
This is the weird thing, and this is where it's very sticky territory when you talk about things that are woke when they do that, because when things are done to prove a point, then yes, it's woke as fuck. Like, it's like, did you need that? No. So why are we doing it? When you have things like Batman 89, you know, fucking is Billy D. Williams that played Harvey Dent. So, you know, he was a black guy. Now, that wasn't done to prove a point, and we know that because people weren't doing shit to prove a point then, and it came across well. It was done great, and there's even that comic, isn't there, where goes into Two-Face. So, you know, point is those things can be done, whereas if it's done today, there's so many things that are done to prove a point. But this is where you get sticky territory, because you look and you're like, where do you know where it's done to prove a point? And is it, as long as it comes through, fine. So I think if that was made today exactly as it was, yes, of course, there would be like, oh, was that done for? And yeah, as I say, I get that because so much is done to prove a point. So people would question it, but I don't think at any point she ever felt out of place in a whole like, oh, why are we doing that? Or, you know, we didn't need a strong female character or anything like that. I don't even think she felt like a standout strong female character. She felt a little bit like comic relief in a way. It was just quite fun. Do you know what I mean? Not a comic relief like Gimli, but you know what I mean? Something that was just a fun little addition. That's what it felt like. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the little girl that says to, like, the knight goes to her house and the little girl goes, I want to be big and strong like you. It's just a fun little moment for a kid to have. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, we've got to have her growing up to be a strong woman. And I think it delivered it well to see it like that. So, but yeah, it always gets sticky territory when you think what's done to prove a point. But yeah, I don't think she felt out of place at all.
No, it's a great moment. I think it is very dumbed down for the movie. Like, I think that moment in the book, you know, in the film, she's, you know, the dramatic reveal of the helmet, like, I am no man. Like, it's a great moment, but that line is a little bit on the nose, I think.
I don't think it was, because it's like, it's right. She got tits, she ain't a man. That's the way I saw it.
But when you read that bit in the book and what she says and how eloquent it is, you could imagine. So yeah, I think actually in 2025, if it's that I am no man, that I would go, oh, there we go, there it is. I think
what
because
Lita Ford said the other day, that was good.
Lita Ford,
like, I'm not going to do it.
Was great, yeah. And before that, I can't remember which band it was. I can't remember if it was Shez Kane. I think it was Shez Kane was saying like, the women here today stood up for rock in a world where, you know, girls get it done, that kind of thing. And I was like, all right, you know, because there were no female artists before the 80s, I guess, in music. But then Lita Ford said something like, you know, the women here rock, like, I'm not going to get up and do the whole women spiel. And I was like, well, thank you, Lita. Thank you. Thank you so much. Brinsley says, not only do I love the extended editions, I wanted even more. Bring out the ultimate editions. I was saying to you, yeah.
Wasn't that, you said 25th anniversary kind of...
Peter Jackson keeps hinting. Well, we know for a fact a lot of the deleted scenes.
The thing about ultimate extended editions and stuff like that is it's got to be paced right as well. So there's always going to be, I think, some scenes that are like, there's no way we can fit that into a well-paced movie. It's like, I think it was Chris Columbus or something saying about the Harry Potter movies. I can't remember, but was talking about how, because the first 2 Harry Potter movies there are extended editions of.
Yeah, there are.
But then after that, saying that there are deleted scenes, but we never made any extended editions because there was no way we could fit it in with pacing, because the reason scenes are taken out of movies, as much as people might think, oh, that really should have been there, it's because they're taken out so it stays well paced and it's got a good. And if you put that in, it just messes up it. So we just have to pick and choose and take things out. Yeah, I don't know. So as much as it could be another version, or would it just be extra scenes, deleted scenes that we get to see?
Well, that's it. I don't know if I'd like these scenes to be placed back in the movie. I think I would just like for these scenes to be properly available, upscaled maybe, but I think that's asking a bit too much. But even just to get these out, even if it's in standard definition, just all of these scenes together, because it's really the one bit of the behind the scenes that isn't shown in any way. We don't have these scenes, and we know they exist through various trailers or clips on video games or TV spots and things like that. Someone has compiled all of the deleted scenes from, whether it's in some shots from behind the scenes, or, as I said, all the other different places where we've had glimpses of them. We have a pretty good idea of what they'd be, but some have been hinted at by Peter Jackson that, you know, we haven't seen anything from, and I'd love for those to be made available, because then, you know, someone would clean them up, would, you know, put them in high definition, would maybe like fix the effects in it or something, and then would produce like a fan edit version of them where they would add these scenes back into the film. There's, as Frodo says at the end of Return of the King, when he's talking about the book, there's room for a little more. I think there might be. I think we could go for some more. Let's just scanning down the comments now. Bath Time says, do you know how many female characters speak to each other in the entire Lord of the Rings film trilogies, Dale?
No. I don't. Should I know the answer?
How many female characters speak to each other? I know the answer to this, I think.
Should I know the answer? I can think of 3 female characters off the top of my head.
Yeah? That talk to each other?
This is going to be a really...
This barely counts, by the way.
I was going to say, is it like 0?
There's one moment, and it's where, you know, in Two Towers, where those 2 little children, like the mother sends them away on the horse when their village is about to be sacked.
Yeah.
And then that horse gets to safety. Eowyn gives the little girl some stew, and the little girl says to her, "Where's Mama?" That is literally the only moment.
So there you go.
Oh, and then to be fair, you see some. There's the bit where they approach Helm's Deep, and I think you see one of the female like inhabitants of Rohan just say like, "My lady, we're saved." I think it's that. It's like pure background shit at that point, which is quite funny.
That's yeah. So yeah, none.
Oh, here we go. Brinsley says, I'm just going to direct all these questions at you. How many times does Legolas speak to Frodo?
Well, he doesn't at all in second and third one. So
Correct.
Twice.
I think it's once. He
Is it
says,
once?
"You."
I was going to say because in the first one, yeah.
He says, "You have my bow."
Yeah, he does.
That's it. That is the only time.
Wow,
it's funny. There's a whole meme of that. You know, at the end where Frodo wakes up in bed and like everyone comes in one at a time, and they're like laughing, and it's like the curtain call for all the actors. You know, he sees Gandalf and he's like, Gandalf. And, you know, I don't think he says like Merry and Pippin, but he's like overjoyed to see them. And then everyone who comes in, he's like, Gimli. And then Legolas comes in. He doesn't call him by his name. He just stares at him like, oh, yeah, there's that guy. And then Aragorn comes in. He's like, oh, Aragorn again. So, yeah. He couldn't even remember Legolas's name. Let's see. Oh, Robin says, who's my favorite Silmarillion character? Oh, that's... yours will be Ungoliant. Yeah, I was going to say yours will be Ungoliant. Oh, that's a very, very tough question. Obviously, Feanor's up there because he's sort of like the Anakin Skywalker.
My favorite third age character is Hadhod.
Hadhod's cool. Oh God, who else in the Silmarillion? I actually kind of like Morgoth. Like I just like I like villain characters or anti-heroes. Like I just think they're they're really compelling and interesting.
I like villain characters.
I'd probably say Feanor.
I like villain characters when they win.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen often, but I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Bath Time says Feanor. Yeah, he's just a colossal dickhead, but he's great. Exactly. He's just a fun character to read.
Who is?
Feanor.
I just said he is. I could have been talking about you.
He's just above. Yeah, Feanor. I mean, he could be talking about me. He'd be right. Brinsley says he doesn't speak to him in return. Oh, hang on. See, I'm loving these trivia questions, by the way. Keep them coming in, guys. Keep them coming in. Bath Time says, I'm always...
You know what? One time I played Trivial Pursuit, right, years ago, and I got 3 questions right in a row, yeah? And I was playing on a team with my brother and someone else, and we were discussing the answer. I got 3 questions right in a row, and no point did they take my answer, and then we're going with this, right? Got them right every time, and then one time they go, right, what's the answer? Gave them an answer, I got it wrong. I was like, well, not my problem at this point. Just thought I'd give that bit little fact to everyone. And they continue.
Have you seen that? There's a video of. Do you remember Supermarket Sweep with Dale Winton?
Yeah, that was fun. The Darth Vader one.
The Darth Vader one. They said, "What is the name of Luke Skywalker's father?"
Says Anakin Skywalker, and he gets it wrong. I would have been like, "Excuse me."
And the woman on the other team says Darth Vader and gets it right. I wanted to punch my way through the fucking screen.
I know. I would, to be fair, I would put my hand up, and on a technicality, I'm actually right, because by the time he's Darth Vader, he's no longer Anakin. He's not even his father. So technically, if you want to be anal about it, I'm right and he's wrong. So
yeah. I'm trying to think if we can say. Okay, so I think you've already answered this, but out of the 3, you mentioned that Fellowship was your favorite. If you could sum up, why do you think that is? Why would you say Fellowship's your favorite one?
I think there's better character designs that appear throughout. I think Ring Wraiths is definitely the one for me. I think there's more I think there's more different. Well, I say more differences in. I think more differences in setting. I think you see a lot more places.
Yeah,
I think. So it feels more like there's. It's weird to say there's more happening because I think a lot does happen in Two Towers, and it's my least favorite. And it's weird to say like it's not as much happens because loads happens, but I think more happens where it's you're here, then there's this, and then you see this, and everything's just oh my god, this is really cool. And then I think it's the only one as well you proper see the world inside the ring, and it's really fucking cool. And I was like, this is amazing. And then Two Towers, it feels like you're sort of bridged to the next one, and then Return the King. There's really cool stuff happening, but it doesn't hit that the first one does. I think you just see so much from the first one. You're introduced to this world, and I think I wouldn't say you can watch it as a standalone movie because it is all one thing and it's kind of like, well, the journey hasn't finished. But I think it's one where it has a satisfactory ending, which is a nice sort of like, okay, yeah, it doesn't have a satisfactory ending. If they, for some reason, can the rest and went, oh, we're not doing it anymore, don't have the budget, blah, 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 you would be like, well, where the fuck's the rest of the story?
Yeah.
But it has a satisfactory ending, whereas like Two Towers, for instance, it's like, okay, but we're continuing here, right? Whereas Fellowship felt like a whole... Okay, can see the rest next year. I'm cool with it. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of. I think, yeah, just Fellowship is one that I could, and as great as they are, they are all great, and watching the extended is great. But there is also something to be said. Look, they are long movies, and if you watch them like in bursts, in the sense of you watch half one night and then the other half the next night, for each of them, I'd completely understand that because they're very long movies. But I think Fellowship is one where I would be adamant, no matter what, to be like, yeah, but we need to watch it all in one. It's what do you know what I mean? I think there's so many great aspects of it that stand out. So the great aspects in Two Towers up here, Return the King up here, but then Fellowship, it's like it's just goes miles beyond. I think the pacing's the best in Fellowship as well.
Yeah,
I think the pacing is probably the worst in Two Towers. I'm not bragging on it. I'm really not bragging on it.
Agree with that.
But I do think it's the doesn't say smaller points. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, it's one of the weaknesses. I think the pacing is the best. I think the pacing is fantastic in Return of the King, especially for 4 hours, because no matter how good something is, it's still a long time. Like, do you know what I mean? It's
4 hours plus. It's like 4:10, isn't it, or something?
Yeah,
like that,
exactly. It's like when you read a book, like after like after like 100 pages, I'm sat there and sometimes my brain is just like I've done a workout. Sometimes my brain is a bit like, okay, just chill. And so it's like that when you watch a movie. No matter how good it is, you've still got to take a break, and it's still 4 hours. It's still quite long. And I think Return of the King does very, very well in the pacing. Where I mean, when it got halfway through, we stopped for about like 5 minutes. Grabbed the pizza and just kind of. I think I looked at like a text from someone. It just kind of 5 minutes takes you away, or 10 minutes, whatever it was, which was nice. But I don't think it was any point where I was just like, okay, this is long now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't feel like so. Return of the King still does really well, but I think everything all together, Fellowship just had it all.
Well, I did check in with you at points during. I probably did this with all 3 movies, but certainly the last one, I kept going like, "You still all good? You still in it?" You're like, "Yeah." Like,
it was like it is
4 hours in. Yeah, I'm fine. What?
It was. To be fair though, they are long movies that if I did watch them again, I say if I know I will. But the thing is, I know Fellowship I will. Like, if that was a fantastic movie, I won't lie. It's up there with. I can't do it my favorite 10 movies or anything. I can't, but it's definitely going to be up there as one. It's fantastic movie.
Yeah.
It's the best of them all. It's one I could watch again and again and again.
Yeah.
But I will obviously read the books next. But if I was to watch them through again, I wouldn't put it past me to watch Two Towers. Let's say, all right, I start it at midday and then gets halfway through, and I'm like, right, I'm gonna make a sandwich, have a shit, just do my thing. Like, do you know what I mean? I'll do that. Or I could go out, get some food shopping, come back. Like, I wouldn't put it past me. But Fellowship, I feel like I'd be like every time, all the way through, start to finish.
Yeah. Pretty much for all the reasons that you mentioned as well. Fellowship's always been my favorite of the 3 as well. I think it's the one that feels closer to Tolkien, maybe not in terms of a direct adaptation of it, but just in terms of spirit. I think it feels like there's less studio-y things going on. I'm not to say that the studio meddled with everything in the second and the third one, but you can definitely see in the second and the third there's more of a push to keep the love story going with Arwen and Aragorn, and they have to try and think of ways to keep that going as a through line throughout those films. Gimli definitely gets a lot more comedic as the films go on. There's definitely more of a focus on, not to the detriment of the movie, but the battle scenes get bigger and there's more effects and it gets very, very grandiose. Whereas I feel that Fellowship goes through all these different locations and there are big set pieces, but it feels a lot more self-contained. It feels like the one that has the most, like the ending, it's the most emotionally fulfilling movie. You can watch it as a one and done, although obviously the quest isn't finished by the end of it. But where we round off everything, I think Frodo arriving at that decision that he needs to do this on his own. He needs to break away from this fellowship because it's not going to work. You've got the 3 hunters deciding to go and save Merry and Pippin. You have the phenomenal redemption, one of the best redemption I've ever seen in film with Boromir's character. And the breaking of the Fellowship movie, ending with the Enya song at the very end. It's just, that movie's always been special to me, and I love seeing it like loads of different places in Middle Earth, and you get it from it's just a great world building movie right from the off. It has to immerse you in this world, give you all of this dense history about the ring, and introduce all of these characters and the races. There's a lot on the shoulders of that first movie, and if it hadn't have got it right, then none of the other 2 would have worked. And thankfully it absolutely nailed it to perfection, in my opinion. So for all those reasons, Fellowship's my favorite. But someone says like, what's your favorite Lord of the Rings movie? I usually say, well, I see all 3 as one big movie. But if I had to pick one, then yeah, it's Fellowship. I probably would go Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King for me.
Basically, it just got worse, didn't they? To you.
That's
exactly what it is. If you prefer,
I guess
first,
so. I guess so. But like, I ain't gonna say they got.
But they did get worse, didn't they?
These are all still like.
You watch one, you went, it's amazing. Then you watch the next one, you're not as good as the first, and you went, not as good as the first two. So technically, they got worse.
Yeah, I guess so. By that definition, I suppose.
It's like when you have kids, isn't it?
Like, I wouldn't know. Hopefully. Let's see. Bath Time agrees. Fellowship kind of has the most self-contained of the structures with a central story. It's the tightest story of all three, so I get that from Dale.
Yeah. I think it's. I do think it's the best put together movie. I think. I think pacing wise as well. I don't see any reason. I mean, what is it? 3.5 hours. I don't see any reason why the extended wasn't just the theatrical. Just fucking accept. Just put that shit out there. Like, I don't see. It didn't feel like that long of a movie. Obviously, Return the King did, because 4 hours is going to feel long regardless. But I feel Fellowship should have just been put out there as that and been like, why are we messing around with fucking extended editions? That is the movie you're getting. If you don't like it, fuck off. I
think these films also helped normalize. Certainly movies? More so now. Yeah, long movies at the cinema. Before that,
do you know what's weird? I feel like we had a period where they did get a bit longer, because I feel like, like you say, it normalized it, but I feel like they're getting shorter again. I don't feel like we get that many long movies anymore. We get a lot of short ones.
I don't know. From a few years ago, I feel like the new norm is like 240, like 230, 240 now.
Yeah, I feel like it's increased a little bit. I don't know. How long was Superman?
That was 2 hours, wasn't it? But apparently they cut like 20 minutes out of that. Could you imagine watching that film? Extra 20 minutes.
Can you imagine just watching it again?
Fair point. Brinsley also agrees. Brinsley says Fellowship is my favorite, but love them all. Yeah. Bath Time says I really like Two Towers, but it does have a feeling that it's all centered around one battle.
Yeah, that's probably what I mean in my head when I think like less happens, whereas loads does happen, but yeah, it's all
Let's have a look. Bath Time says, how many Nazgul are there, Dale, and how many are in the Fellowship, and is this a coincidence?
Didn't actually think about that, but that is a good point. It's interesting. That is quite cool, actually. Never thought of it like that.
So there is a line, I think this is in the book, and I know this was filmed, this is one of the deleted scenes. In the movie, when they get the Fellowship together, and Elrond kind of says to himself, 9 companions.
Yeah.
So be it. You shall be the Fellowship of the Ring. The original line, the deleted scene, he says, 9 companions to match the 9 ring wraiths. You shall be. I think that line is actually from the book.
I never made that comparison, to be fair, 9 and 9. But that I don't think it's a coincidence, but it's an interesting. That's quite cool. I think it should be 13 and 7, maybe 20.
I'm trying to think if there's. I mean, there's. You can talk about these films like all the time. Favorite scenes. If we do like favorite scene from each film, if you can think of like one major set piece or moment.
The first time Frodo puts on the ring, because I was like, that is what happened the last time Ozzy Osbourne dropped acid, and he went, no more, never doing that again.
So the bit in the Prancing Pony where he falls and it falls on his finger in slow motion.
I did really like that. I also like where he's about to put it on with the ring, where he's looking for him. I really like that. I liked the where he puts it on again and he's kind of cowering. I like a lot of those dark scenes like that. Those were my favorite points. I love the Balrog. I love the look of him.
That's like one of the coolest CGI creatures I think I've ever seen in film. I
absolutely wanted Pippin to die when he dropped the thing and all the orcs came and I was like, please kill him, and they didn't. And I like the Kraken. Was it a Kraken? It wasn't a Kraken, was it?
It's closer, is it? Cool. The Watcher.
That was
the
cool.
Watcher.
But no, I would say anything when he puts on the ring, I would say those were my standout. Two Towers. That is a good question. I don't know. It sounds like I fucking hate the movie, but no, I don't. It's just I don't know what would be my favorite. I like when really where you first see the old frail king. I just thought that looked really cool. Very feel like Ozzy Osbourne again. Like, you know, it's a very I really like that. But Return of the King, it's a very different vibe coming from here, because I love the Witch King where he dies, but my favorite I think would be where Gimli's like, so it's a drinking game, and he basically passes out, doesn't he? And the whole, that's my favorite bit. I love that, and the stuff all over his beard, and I thought that was cool. That was my favorite bit with him.
Fellowship. Oh my god, the whole set piece in Moria, culminating with the Balrog, is incredible. It's just like peak fantasy for me when I think of those films. Boromir's Last Stand is astounding. Just amazingly put, just filmmaking at its peak, and acting and just everything. Just that whole ending there. Let's see, Two Towers. There's a couple of moments. I always get a kick from the that when they ride out and meet them at the end of Helm's Deep. And they ride down the causeway, and then Gandalf rides down and aids them at Helm's Deep is incredible. I really like the Elrond and Arwen scene, actually. The Evenstar scene where he says, this is what your future's going to look like. Aragorn will die eventually and you're going to be miserable and everything's going to be sad. I think the cinematography in that scene and the music especially is just gorgeous. And then Return of the King, there's always the scene with I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. That always gets to me. You bow to no one at the very end. Let's see. And, of course, and the Ride of the Rohirrim is without a doubt one of the best cinema scenes in cinema history.
I'll tell you one scene I wasn't that keen on, where the ring falls into the lava. I thought it could have been done better, where it kind of there, it sinks, it's there, and it sinks, and then it goes. I was like, I think that could have been done better.
Well, there is a moment where it sits on it's almost like waiting for Frodo. It's like the final sacrifice. It's like I'm going to wait.
Been done better. Yeah, I do think that could have been done better. That was something I thought I would have done that differently.
I always thought with Gollum, where he hits the lava, it's just like, and he goes like, I don't know if he should have hit the lava and just screamed and like reaching.
I think there should have been a scream. I do. That would have been.
But then would that have pushed it to a 15 maybe, or an 18 because of the extreme violence?
Well, one of the Hobbits extended became a 15, so the extended should be a 15.
It's true, but then it doesn't sell as many tickets, does it?
Well, theatricals are 12. Make the extended a 15. That's what the Hobbit did.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, they could have done that.
They could have.
Bath Time says, "Meat's back on the menu, boys," is the best addition made to the books.
I like that.
It makes no sense. Tolkien would have reviled that scene, but I don't care. It's a great line.
That was fun.
Bath Time says the prologue is by far my favorite part of the films. Very well done prologue. Yeah, it's a lot of information to get across, and it does it very, very well. Brinsey says, my favorite moments from each film: number 1, breaking of the Fellowship; number 2, Sam's speech; and 3, you bow to no one. Yeah, going for the emotional moments there. Good picks there, definitely. I could pick many more scenes. We all could. Just the whole film. That Time says, I like the lighting of the beacons because it really didn't have the same impact on me in the books, but it was incredible on screen. Yeah, that bit's amazing. The music in that scene and the landscapes. Oh, here you go. Question for you. If you could have any artifact from Middle-earth, what would it be?
Elwyn. What was her name?
Eowyn. Just Eowyn, yeah.
Yeah, that artifact. I really like the light with Shelob and the
the light of
I really I do. I mean, I could easily say
filled with Galadriel's bathwater.
Yes.
I'd buy it.
Do you know what? I could easily say the ring, because when you put it on, you're going through some weird dark acid trip, but you can always take it off when you're having too much of a rough time. So that would be cool. But I would say that I just think that's really cool. I don't know. Would you count Sting as an artifact?
Yeah, because
it glows, and I love it, but I've loved it since. And this is one of the things it probably wouldn't say if I never read The Hobbit, but because I did, it's one of those of just like, but I love it. It's great.
You know the history of that.
Exactly. That's why as well. So maybe that, and I would love to own a sword. I think. Do you know what I mean? I have swords, but I'd love just my own, like a Kill Bill moment of this is made for you, and I'd like that's what I want, and it's just that'd be great. That's what I want.
Let's see. Jerk says, would the Palantir be creepy? Yeah, I guess it would. It still communicates with Sauron. It almost has a One Ring like draw to Pippin, doesn't it? Where is infatuated by it. He's got to look at it one more time. And one thing that always confused me as well, and I don't know if anyone else has had this opinion as well. In the extended edition, there's the whole moment where Aragorn reveals himself to Sauron. He touches the Palantir right before they ride out to the Black Gate at the very end, and he tries to call out Sauron. But he already touched the Palantir earlier in the film when Pippin's like freaking out. Aragorn tries to take it off him and sort of like slips into like he faints, like almost slips into a bit of a coma or something, unconscious. Aragorn technically touched the Palantir then, so why wasn't Sauron aware of who Aragorn was at that point? Or am I just missing something there? I know that's not in the book, but just, even in terms of the movie itself. Carl says, I remember I jumped the first time I saw when Bilbo saw the ring for the first time again and his face changes for a second.
That
God.
Was cool. That was a good moment.
That was childhood trauma, that scene.
Why it didn't make him do any sort of weird things in Hobbit, we'll never know.
Brinsley says, Sting isn't an artifact.
That's what I'm saying.
It's more of a letter opener, really.
Oh, okay.
You will get that reference when we watch the Hobbit films.
Yeah, the Hobbit films. I've watched one scene from it and I can't remember what it was, but it was actually funny. No, I do remember what it was. It was in, when Bilbo falls to Gollum and they're fighting is it the orcs they fight?
The goblins.
The goblins, there you go.
Same thing.
Yeah, but he cuts the guy's belly. What does he? I can't remember what line he uses.
The Great Goblin.
So I suppose that'll work in full sport or something like that.
That'll do it.
I thought that was quite funny. That's the only scene I've seen.
You might actually really like those films.
Will I though? Because I don't like, as you know, expanded shit for no reason. Like it's the whole. This is why I don't like a lot of sequels, because if you do something and it doesn't need a sequel, don't fucking make a sequel, because it's like, why are we expanding on something? This is a story. It's done. And because I've read The Hobbit and it's a great story, it's like, well, we don't need to go in that direction, do we? We don't need to. So I don't know. I don't know. I'll probably like the bits that are faithful to the book, but other than that, I'll be like, oh, fuck off.
Right. Lord of the Rings. We've just gone over 2 hours, so without almost breaking even with the runtime of the films. Let's go for like final thoughts then on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Were they what you expected? Did they surpass your expectations? And yeah, just final thoughts on the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they were what I expected. I can't say they surpassed expectations, because I did expect like a groundbreaking sort of, a fantasy that was like everything can be owed to it. But because everything can kind of be owed to it, there was a lot of stuff that I was like, I can kind of see what's going to happen here, but that's because I know a lot of other fantasy things. So that didn't hinder it. I can't say it went over expectations. I think a lot of what I expected was like, okay, I feel like that was going to do that. And I did give it good credit in my head of, I feel like this is going to do this kind of thing. Oh, it did. Brilliant. Amazing. So yeah, I think it was exactly where I thought it would sit. I'm excited to go back and look at more, read the books and all that, but I feel like I should give it a break, because it'll be one of those, I will sit there for hours and I'll just be like in it. And then before you know it, I'll be like, have you eaten today? No. I haven't this month. I've been at home. When are you supposed to go to that gig? Yeah, but I forgot. Like, so do you know what I mean? So yeah. I'll give it a couple of months. And going back to it, it'll make it more special, I think. But it was where I thought it would be in a lot of things, and there wasn't really anything that I thought was overwhelming either, which I think Lord of the Rings does get. I think it gets a bad rep for things being overwhelming and long. I think it has a really bad rep for that.
Good jumping off point there. The ending of Return of the King, the multiple endings to Return of the King, a lot of people kick off about that, saying that, oh, it's got like 5 endings, it fades to black, and then you think, it fades back in, it fades again. Did you think that Return of the King had too many endings, or did you think
I think it had too many endings? I think it was a long ending. I don't think it was unnecessarily long. I just remember thinking it's probably one of the longest endings I've seen. Like you get the kind of ending, and then there was one moment it fades to black, and I thought they're going to have now a nice little epilogue. It's going to be about 2 minutes, but it wasn't. It was much longer. So it's one of the longer endings, but I don't think it outstayed its welcome, especially considering it was a 4-hour movie. I think by this point you're like, it's cool. Got time. Like, do you know what I mean?
If you view this as like one big 11, 12-hour story, having an ending that occupies about 20 to 25 minutes of that runtime at the very end isn't a massive leap for me. I think everything needs to be there to tie everything up. And in all honesty, you know, for you book readers out there, I'm not going to try and spoil anything for Dale right now. There's a hugely different ending to the books that they if they had have put that in the movie,
it was all a dream.
It probably would have added on like an extra 20 to 30 minutes of the movie easily at the very end if it was adapted. So yeah, probably a good reason it wasn't.
Yeah, it was all a dream.
I agree with Bath Time here though. How amazing are they for being almost 25 years old? Every time I watch these films, even 25 years on, a quarter of a century, if we're going to get like really we
could be dead tomorrow.
We could. I am still blown away by these films in every realm of possibility with them. But I kept saying to you like multiple times the way through, like the fact that they filmed all of these back to back, it's unfathomable to me. Everything that was built.
How much did Orlando Bloom get paid?
I don't think he got paid a lot for this.
It was
first
like 10 grand or some shit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was for the Hobbit. He got paid a lot more because obviously he was.
But for this, I think it was something like, what was it, 10 grand? Where I'm thinking back then, let's say late 90, we would have got it in 99. Let's say with I don't know how much that would have been worth. Still not loads, but you know, but that happens in the first movie of everything, don't they? I feel like I can't remember. Daisy Ridley probably got like 70 grand for episode 7, and after that it was like, here's 2 mil.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I don't know, but yeah, he it was interesting. But I don't think Orlando Bloom's that great.
I think he fits the role of Legolas well.
He fits the role of Legolas, but
sort of emotionless.
I think,
you know, not much range.
He's got millions, and I think in a lot of respects I'm more talented than him. He can go fuck himself. I've only got £2 to my name, so
well, he'll have to fuck himself now because he hasn't got Katy Perry to do it for him. So
I'm sure he'll get like fucking Jenna Ortega next.
Yeah,
I'm sure he will, and hats off to him if he does.
But these films to me are just an absolute triumph.
Do you find it weird actually? Because you know how there's that whole thing where guys like girls with like the elf ears and all that kind of stuff, right? He literally goes home to girls liking him with the elf ears. I think that's a bit weird. I'm just saying it's a bit odd, really, isn't it?
Hey, there's different strokes for different folks. Yeah, for me, the Lord of the Rings films are just absolutely incomparable. They have cemented themselves as easily the best film trilogy for me, the best set of films. And watching the behind the scenes really does just give you a newfound appreciation for this absolute work of art that are these films. Are they the most perfect adaptation of the books?
I still don't think it should have been 3. I think it's 1. I mean, you can't do that in one movie, but I think it's one story. I don't think it should have been 3. I think I would even go as far as saying it diminishes it by having 3. I do. Like, I've not obviously read the book yet, but this is why I've said I want it to be 1. It's 1. If that's how it's one story. You know, I think, yes, Star Wars is one story, but it's not. It's like there's this, then there's this, and there's this. Exactly. Up, yeah. Whereas Lord of the Rings, it's one journey they go on, and it's not really like and this is another thing. It's not an issue, but like one of the reasons probably Two Towers was one of my was my least favorite was because it's not like a whole right. This happens, and then you've got this big climactic ending. You do technically, but it feels like a whole like this could just be the middle of the movie. Do you know what I mean? And it's one of them. So yeah, I think that I personally think it diminished it. I think it should just be one big book. Yeah, so that's why when I read it, it will be a case of, and I will purposely do this in my brain as well. When I read them, and obviously I'm not going to read it for in a day. If I do, I'll be fucking amazed. But I'll get to, because what I usually do when I read, I'll read 3 chapters a night or 4 chapters, or whatever. Like I end it at a point where I think, okay, I'll start on this chapter tomorrow, or whatever. But I will purposely, when it gets to the end of the Fellowship, read the first 2 chapters of Two Towers the same day, so it's all just one thing rather than splitting it up, because I think that's how it's meant to be. Yeah, but I think I'll have a better experience like
that. Well, actually, that's going to be my next fan edit project. I think once I've got The Hobbit done, which I'm working hard on over the over the next couple of weeks. I'm hoping to get it done, or at least a theatrical version. Once that's done, I do want to do a fan edit of the Lord of the Rings films, where I am going to try and combine them all into one big film, just like the one volume of the book. A lot of cuts are going to have to be made, and a lot of care in terms of pacing. But that's going to be my next project, I think. But yeah, these films are just incredible. They mean so much to me. And yeah, without a doubt, my favorite films of all time, which will never be surpassed, I'm pretty sure. At this point now, I kept thinking at the time, will there ever be a time where a film comes out that is better than these films and completely blows them out of the water? Sadly not. But yeah, 25 years on, it still hasn't been achieved, in my opinion. And the way that the film industry is at the moment, and the way how most films come out now, yeah, I can quite safely say that I think in my life, I just feel so fortunate that I exist in a lifetime where the Lord of the Rings is a thing.
I always find those things weird when people go, you know, the world is X amount of billion years old, but you've been around at the same time as this. It's like, yeah, but if I was born 100 years later, I could have been around the same time as something even better. You never know. It's a possibility.
Could be. But
I would like to have been around the same time as Jesus and watch the what I was going to say, cremation. What's the
crucifixion?
Word? That's the word. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, just how cool would it be to say I was there? Do you know what I mean? Be an interesting event. Or the Holocaust. I was there.
Oh, we can say.
I don't think I could come away from it.
We could be like, oh, Ozzy, we were there.
That is true. We were there. We
Ozzy
was quite close to his body.
Ozzy was our crucifixion.
Yeah. We were. That's what we said. What was it? This is the closest we've ever come to Ozzy. It was like literally feet away from us. Yeah.
And I didn't have to pay $2,500 for golden circle standing either.
That was weird. That was a weird sort of. That was a weird event. The fact that that's a thing and people paid it, but here we are.
Right, guys, I think we're going to round off there. I do want to say a big thank you to everyone that's joined us tonight and kept the conversation going on a Saturday night, no less. Very late on a Saturday night as well. So late, in fact, it's early. It's now Sunday morning.
Because people that like Lord of the Rings have nowhere else better to be.
That's just true.
We're sat at home eating pizza and going, what do we do?
Hey, that was a wonderful end to my Saturday evening. I was getting through work, was getting through it, long day, and I thought, I finish at 4:30. I'm going to get home and I'm going to watch Return of the King, and it's going to be a great day. I want to say thank you to you as well for letting me watch these films with you for the first time, because you could have quite easily bombed off on your own and watched these, but I appreciate you for letting me watch these with you.
Remember when Remember when Pringles did a ring as their little thing?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they did. You got to send off a little replica ring. I don't know how good it was. I just know
I'm going to have to get on Facebook Marketplace now and see if I can find one.
I thought it looked kind of cool. I was like, it's an actual metal ring. But I wasn't into Lord of the Rings as a kid. So I was like, it's kind of cool. And that's as far as it went in my head. But apparently that's the thing.
So we'll keep everyone updated on your reading of the Lord of the Rings, I think. We'll probably do, like we did a video for your review on the Hobbit book after you read it. This might be a while off yet. Whenever you get it done, don't rush it or anything like that. But we'll chat about it again.
Do you know what? You could hear from me tomorrow, and I'll go, do you know what I've started? Could be a thing, but I will leave it a bit because I think there'll be something magical about returning to it afterwards. Yeah. But at the moment, it's at the bottom of the long list of books. So wherever it will rise up in that, I don't know. So give it a few months. But
yeah. Bath Time says, class stuff, Dale. Great to see these films through fresh eyes. And Robin says, don't lead with the Silmarillion, you'll die.
I've heard this. I've heard it's a thing.
It's wise words.
I've heard it's, what was it? Chapter 14 I was hearing really shit as well. I hear that a lot.
Oh, was it of the lands of Beleriand, is it, or something like that?
I've heard it's boring. That's the word I hear.
It's just a description of the landscape for a chapter.
Yeah.
Which isn't too bad if you've got a map in front of you, but if you're just reading it, like you can't, your brain's at that point. When you go to a museum and you try and show will and you try and read all the captions next to all the items, but after about the third caption, your brain just can't absorb any more dates or names or places or provinces.
The thing I've heard about it, which is, it probably makes sense when you go to it, but characters are given more than like 3-4 names, and then he'll randomly switch between them without warning, and you're like, wait, what? So yeah, that's what I've heard, and that will be the confusing thing. I'm like, yeah, but why did we do that? So because it's like, yeah, I know, but why? Like, I'm trying to understand what's going on, and you've confused the fuck out of me.
Brinsley says, give him Rings of Power next. Chris loves it.
I've heard questionable things.
Oh dear. And Robin says, I'm in the US. It's only 8. Well, the night's still young for you then, Robin. You can be partying till the break of dawn.
So you've still got time to watch Return of the King, and just gone midnight if you do. So
yeah, get it done, get it watched. What have we got coming up next? It will be Wednesday next week, probably the next Studio Ghibli movie, which is Porco Rosso, which is a great movie. I'm really looking forward to it, and we'll probably be jumping on, you know, any other video that we can think of. Bath time. I'm going to be getting back to you in a couple of days. I'm going to reread through your suggestions for videos, but I think we've definitely got grounds for a pretty good video that we can do.
Biopic on Netflix as well now.
That's news to me.
I feel like I saw something today on that. I don't know.
Or they'll probably be working on one next.
Oh, they're doing a movie. He wanted Denzel Washington to play him. That's what he said. That was his words.
Prince of Darkness, but in the wrong context, I guess. In case you haven't done so already, I know you guys already have, but if people are discovering this video after the fact, let us know your thoughts on the Lord of the Rings, favorite characters, favorite scenes, moments, anything you want regarding these films, please do let us know. And do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. Don't want to be that guy, you know, hit the bell icon, hit the like button and everything like that. But if you do hit the like button, it really does help get these videos out, and the algorithm being what it is as we build this community, as more people come in. A big thank you to everyone once again who's tuned in tonight and kept the conversation going. You guys are the reason that we do this thing. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone.